welcome to another episode of the Pop Shock Podcast. Welcome back, I should probably say, because even though there has been episodes going up fairly consistently, I did miss last week, so apologies for that. But other than that, there's been an episode every week, but we haven't actually sat down to record in like 2 or 3 weeks. So this is the first time in a wee while for us. And because of that, we've missed a fair amount of news, and we have a fair amount of stuff to talk about that we have been watching over the last few weeks. Like the last time we recorded was before the first episode of Kenobi dropped. So we've not even spoken about Kenobi or Stranger Things or any of that stuff that dropped. So that is going to be the main topic of today. We're not going to actually have a topic. We're just going to go over all the shit we've been watching over the last few weeks that we've not been recording. So yeah, I'm joined by Courtney today. Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
And the glorious Jerd. How you doing, Jerd?
I get the glorious Courtney, no?
I should.
No.
I should.
It's gonna be
That never happened.
I should
I'm
also.
just Courtney.
Hey, I was actually going to mention how glorious Courtney is in a wee second, because I've also since got a PS5 since we last recorded, and that was
I still don't get any.
You
sort
still
of
don't get,
physical
yeah.
that was
Jesus,
that was
man.
down to Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been fun.
We've audio evidence of every time you have the adjectiveless Courtney.
Yep.
Oh, this is also
Plain old Courtney who doesn't do anything, doesn't get him anything.
Get him a PS5.
Just sits
I
there.
tell you how perfect you are every day, right?
He
I
just
don't need it
keeps
on
me
the
under
podcast,
his desk
right?
and just
That's what
whips
it
me
is.
out whenever he wants me for a podcast. That's it. So.
Yeah, this is my first podcast recording since I turned 27 too, so there's also that.
Yeah.
Old man.
Right, let's
Let's hope you survive.
Old man Daniel.
Here, I've got nearly 10 years on you, so.
Yeah, but you don't act as old as he does.
It's like Old Man Logan,
I
but it's not as cool. Yeah, so let's just roll out the news. The Boys season 3, first 3 episodes, and the 4th episode have dropped.
The Friday, yeah.
But we haven't seen any of it yet.
No.
But it has already been announced that it has been renewed for a season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Jerd, I believe you are up to date with The Boys.
I am certainly up to date with it. Yeah, so
what's your thoughts on the new season?
It's great. It just continues to be great. It's doesn't fucking miss a beat when it starts. The first episode, I think that the first scene is one of the. It's always been brutal, but this has a very particular brutality to it that we haven't seen before. So yeah, I'll just say there's a character called Ant. No, he's not called Ant-Man, but he's basically Ant-Man. He's called Termite, and he does something. He goes small, and then he goes big.
Yeah.
And it's all dependent on where he is when he goes big.
No.
I don't think this is spoiling it to say, because I think I know what happens. I believe what they did was they heard about all the Avengers Endgame theories about Ant-Man going up Thanos' butt, and they did it.
No.
I'm pretty sure. Is that roughly, am I along the right lines? Like, they maybe didn't go up that same spot, but they went up somewhere, and then...
Yes, they went somewhere. I guess if it's not the butt, I'll leave your imagination to where it is. Yeah.
Oh no, please tell us, because I don't know if I'll sleep now.
You'll watch it. It's just brutal, yeah. And then it just continues to be brutal. So let me think. Next episode, yeah, there's kind of some normal gore in the second, and then yeah, it's just brutal. It's just great. It's Homelander is they're really kind of zeroing down on how fucking scary Homelander is, and then on top of that, they're drawing allusions to, Butcher isn't that great either. It's like, it's kind of muddying him up a bit more. Where you're like, he's a bit of a bad cunt himself. Like,
I also heard that they are sort of tackling the whole, like, obviously, what's his name? Jack Quaid's character. What's Jack Quaid called again?
Huey?
Yes, Huey. Thank you. Huey goes to work for the some sort of spatial agency, but it turns out that they're also just as corrupt as Vought and all the rest
it's
of them.
the woman from, so if you're up to date with season 3, so it's the woman, the politician person, or the DA who was exploding people. It was revealed at the end of the last season she was exploding. It was her who...
She has powers.
People's heads were exploding, and then it was revealed by the end of the last season that it was her. So
Yeah.
I think we knew that it was Dodge what Yui was getting into, but they're doing like they're not directly going for Homelander, but they are trying to like get a few dodgy soups behind bars. I think that's what they call them, or is it more of a general comic book
I
area
think they
term
call them
of calling them
soups.
soups?
I think they call them
Yeah,
soups.
I think they
in
call
the
them
voice.
soups. Yeah, I think capes is maybe more of a thing that's just in nerd culture, and soups is, I think it's kind of synonymous. It's like it's kind of like when you're watching like Walking Dead, the walkers or whatever general term for zombies. That which just brought something back into my head that I can't remember what it is now. It's something I played where they call or played or watched where there's zombies and they call them zombies. So I can't remember what that is now. I don't know.
No, I can't think. They don't often call them zombies, but
Resident Evil, they call them zombies. I think I watched something new though that was recent.
I don't
And
remember.
can't remember
Why
what it is
don't
now.
they call them zombies?
I think they feel it's too obvious. I don't know.
It's just weird that they don't, because like it's kind of like a lot of if you're if you're going over the big fucking tree, zombies and vampires and I don't know what else you got.
Well, I was going to say that's why I love From Dusk Till Dawn, because seeing From Dusk Till Dawn, when the shit starts going down, George Clooney turns around and he's like, right, we've all seen the movies, we know that we're dealing with vampires here, stakes through the heart, so that's what we're aiming for, and it just establishes right away that they know what they're fighting, because
I think it happens with it's rare that you'll watch something where vampires are in it where they don't call them vampires. For whatever reason, zombies.
Yeah, that seems to be the one.
They seem to be a bit more hesitant. Now it does happen, like you Walking Dead. No, sorry.
No, don't
Zombieland. They go along that terminology. Do they call them zombies in Resident Evil in general in the games?
I think it's more infected. I think they just call them infected.
Or they just don't mention. I'm not one of those things. Or I even just heard a sound clip of Leon saying like.
And then is it not infected in The Last of Us too?
Yeah, Last of Us.
Well, they're technically not zombies.
They're
more like they're a mush of fungi infection. So they're not exact. They're kind of they are a step removed from zombies, so they don't. Yeah. And they're not undead. A lot of things have that now where they're just like, oh, it's an infection, and it's like Days Gone, it's like a hyper form of rabies. Like they're still technically alive.
Yeah.
Walking Dead or 28 Days Later. I was going to say Walking Dead. Every time I try to say something different, I'm going to call them Walking Dead. Well, they're infected. They're not. Right. They're not actually. Again, they're not undead. That's why there's a bit in 28 Weeks Later where a helicopter just chops one in half, and or chops half their chest, but they're still walking, which technically they shouldn't be able to do because they're not undead. How did we get to this? Zombies?
I don't know.
Zombies are just going up. I've been playing the Resident Evil.
So we're talking about.
Yeah, somehow we got there. Oh yeah, they're soups, capes. Yeah.
There's not zombies in the boys.
Yes. Yeah. Until let me see. Zombies don't actually really mix well with other things. Like there's Marvel zombies or there's DC have had Deceased, and it's always just like, no, I'd prefer just have actual zombies. When it's zombies mixed with another genre, I'm like,
Totally.
So yeah, boys, released season 4, still great, still continues to be great. I really fucking enjoy it. And a YouTuber I've often mentioned, Comic Tropes, did a video, I think, for last season, but it seems like it was more recent. But he was basically saying how it's an elevation of the show or the comics. The comics aren't that great. They're probably, I remember enjoying them when I read them back in the day. Yeah. But if you're to go back now, I think they've aged a lot worse than say like Preacher, which some people would look back at Preacher now and think it's gone a bit childish.
In terms of Garth Ennis, it's probably aged the worst. Compared to like Punisher Max and Preacher, I feel like they've aged better.
Didn't he do the Pro too, which is like about a prostitute?
I've not read that. I think he did do that, but I've not read that.
I think that's another one that just has aged. Like it's a bit, sometimes when baldy humor from like the mid-noughties just does not come across well these days now in most things. But yeah, so Comic Tropes did a video about it, like I think with the last season, saying how I must remember the other YouTubers basically saying how it's kind of better and stuff. But from looking at, I'm on his Patreon, another YouTube channel has done it, and he said like within the space they basically had the exact same title, and within the space of about 2 days had more views than he got in 2 years. But then he actually watched the video and he said like, Oh no, I'm pretty sure they completely plagiarized me because there's even phrases from what I said.
Jesus.
I've got into it, and I can't remember. I must try. I'll look it up here, just to give them a fuck you, because your man is. I'm often bringing up comic tropes when we're talking about stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fucking scholar. Like he as when it comes to comic books, like he recently just interviewed Larry Hama. Like he's just very fucking intelligent, and he just gets, he's for me, for getting back into comic books and learning about the industry more so than I ever really knew. I put it all down to him. He's a fucking he's just a great guy, and to see some fucking dipshit channel just aping off his hard work it's frustrating, because he's if you're listening to this and you're interested in comic books, check out Comic Tropes. He's just fucking great, and he's so intelligent, and he's just a great guy. And he's and even like a lot of comic industry pros know him and follow him, and like Daniel Warren Johnson, he interviewed him recently. He's like, oh yeah, I fucking love your channel. Like he's very well respected within the community, and I think another guy like Comic Pops would say it's very like he's been doing comic, like they've just recently passed 100,000, and he's very aware that's a limit for like comic book YouTubers, because there's only so like, unless you're like Mr. Sunday Movies, you've different, you're into more of the movies or games and stuff. In general, like comic book YouTubing, there's kind of like a limit to it. Like you're only ever going to get so many people interested in it. Sorry, detour there, but kind of related to the boys.
Speaking of comic book stuff, we have a sequel to The Joker announced. It's been announced that Todd Phillips and Scott Silver have written the script, and Joaquin Phoenix has been given a copy, and it is called Joker
2.
Folie 2.
Thanks. Because none of us can say it. But that translates to Madness for 2. Folie 2, Madness for 2. Does this mean we're getting double Joker? Does it mean we're getting two Jokers? A couple of months ago, Willem Dafoe did an interview and just happened to mention, I think he was actually promoting The Northman at the time, and he just happened to mention that he saw Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and he really liked it, and I think he'd get asked, like, people have been fan casting you for years, would you ever consider playing him? And he's like, well, if they could do a thing with the next movie where there was two Jokers, I would be up for kind of that idea. And then all of a sudden the script has came out since then, and it's called Madness for 2, and now folk are wondering, does this mean we're getting,
and it's hard to see, but
will it be Willem Dafoe?
The script, so the first time I saw it, and I found it here from Googling it, but I found it hard. But this isn't exactly the picture, but the general picture. So you take out the Joaquin Phoenix that's there. The first image that was released, so it was under the script, was this Joker, but the shadow is someone else with a knife. So that could be that could bleed into it.
So I believe that image was a Boss Logic image, but I think it is official. I think he worked with Warner Bros. And DC. Do you know what I mean? Now sometimes Boss Logic does that, like for No Way Home,
official
Spider-Man artwork. I think, although it was Boss Logic, it wasn't a fan piece. I think it was an official piece. So, aye.
Excuse me for burping on the podcast there. It might have been fully audible.
Todd Phillips was sharing that image as well and stuff. So
yes, I've seen Todd Phillips share that specifically himself. And then also Todd Phillips related. To be honest, Joker, couldn't give a fuck. I thought it was a bit too edgelordy. I think in my head I was like, "Fuck, was that the last film?" I don't know. We've covered this, like Little Women was the last thing I seen in the cinema. But I was I was annoyed at first. I was like, "Fuck, was Joker the last thing I seen in the cinema?" I just didn't do it for me. I was like, I know Joker should be down to mental illness, but when you actually see it in a film or how they did it, I was like, nah.
I enjoyed it, but it was just a subpar Taxi Driver remake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not
as King
good
of
as
Comedy.
Taxi Driver, however, the idea of a sequel, especially if we're adding Willem Dafoe, I think is very interesting and something that I would definitely be up for. And I do think that Joaquin Phoenix was pretty great at it. And I also think if you're going to introduce two Jokers, like when Willem Dafoe first said that, I was like, well, you can't really do that in the Matt Reeves Batman. You certainly can't do it in like the DCEU Ben Affleck Batman. So the only place to really do that is in this movie, where Joker is just a normal guy called Arthur Fleck, who has a screw loose. Like, I think if you were to go down the route of like the Joker and Batman and their whole kind of relationship, and then all of a sudden there's another Joker, I think that would be, I don't know, I think it would break the
I
lore
don't
too
think this
much.
Joker needs a Batman. I think that would ruin it.
Yeah, well, we've seen Bruce Wayne and he's a child, so again, I heard rumours that they were going to like age up Bruce Wayne, or Matt Reeves' Batman was going to be the grown-up version of that version, and we see the Joker. I heard all this shit online. I was like, no, don't do that. Don't connect them.
I think
Just have your Joker film and have your Batman film.
I think the only way that you could have this Joker having a Batman is just if it's all in his head. Like, he's invented Batman in his head because maybe, like, if he gets locked up after the end of the last film, he's in a straitjacket, he's in a cell on his own, he ends up creating Bruce Wayne into something that he completely isn't.
Well, you speaking, I mean, I hate that trope where it's all a dream at the end or it's all in the character's head, but you speaking about Batman being all in his head, we still don't really know if that was the case in the first movie, because there's certain scenes in the first movie that you see him in a room banging his head on the wall, and he's in, and the clock's above him, and he's in like that, it looks like a white room, like in a mental asylum. And then at the very end, when he's having a cigarette and he's laughing to himself, and she asks him what's so funny, and he goes, "You wouldn't get it. It's been memed to a while, that scene."
Yeah.
Is that the aftermath of the scene where we see him drawing his smile on his face on top of the cop car and everybody's cheering, or was all that just a mental breakdown he was having?
The thing with the clock isn't at the same time.
It's at the same time.
So at the start of the film and at the end of the film, it's the same time with the clock. So
there's no time passed. So is that just him having a hallucination the whole time? We don't know.
But I think it was just more awkward for them to. The way they did it is like Bruce Wayne is 8 at the time of that film or whatever, 10 maybe. So like, actually, if we were going to see that Joker go up against the Batman, and Batman's maybe he's in his mid-20s sometimes, but like technically we'd have to wait 15 years or age it up 15 years, and like, just like the way they did it, I don't know.
I'm okay with Joker being maybe 15 years older than the Batman, but like Joaquin Phoenix is
a good 30 years
older.
Yeah, 50 now.
It would be like an 18-year-old version someone
an old man,
50,
like it just it wouldn't.
Well, not old man, but an older man anyway.
Well, how Joaquin Phoenix is like 50 now, so in 20 years' time he'll be 70. He'll be an old man.
What was Jack Nicholson what was the age gap between them two? Probably not that much, really, because
I think there was about 12 years between Keaton and Nicholson. I'm not sure. But...
Really?
Yeah, well, we still think of Jack Nicholson as being old, but then he wasn't that old because that was like 1989.
I feel like Nicholson is one of the guys that's always looked old.
Yeah,
he's not necessarily always been old; he just has always kind of looked at.
Well, people back then looked older. Like I was even seeing someone put up some random like, I guess the very early version of like Love Island, where it was just like an Irish TV show where it was all like, it was really weird. It was like all lads in their 20s and they were just going around in their underpants kind of dancing on the stage, but like it was like, oh, this is James, he's 23 and he's a bus driver, but he looked about like all of them looked 50. So I think people going back even 30 years looked a lot older, a lot earlier.
He's 15 years older than him.
Yeah, 15. Yeah, so I was...
Michael Keaton's 70 at the moment and Jack Nicholson's 85.
Yeah. So I think like you could, like, I personally don't think it's that bad to have Joker being older and being older than Batman and even being a bit of an old man. Like, I prefer if he was a bit more in his prime. But I think in recent years we've seen Joker being younger than Batman, but I would always have had the impression that Joker is quite older than Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like recent years he has been younger. Like Joaquin and well, I guess there probably wasn't as much of a difference between Heath Ledger and Christian Bale. But
yeah,
like Joaquin's like 50, or fucking Jared Leto's like 50.
Heath Ledger was younger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Heath Ledger was 27 when he died, and in that movie, Bale was
Christian Bale was maybe 30, but I wouldn't say much different. But then Jared Leto Jared Leto's 50. Like, he just seems younger.
Yeah, Jared Leto's just get the fountain of youth. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen our Joker movie. I'm not, buzzing through the roof, but
I'm not, But the thing is, I fucking love Joaquin Phoenix. Like, I think he's given one of my favorite performances ever committed to screen in The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson. But that film, and the performance is grand, but I just didn't like the fucking script, really.
yeah.
And the direction is kind of alright. kind of related to Todd Phillips. He's also been maybe pegged to be the DC Grand Architect, which I fucking hate. Also,
they need to
because
stop doing that.
he's not even doesn't read comics. Like,
they need to stop. Like, I know, but that's the thing. People are saying, "Oh, well, it should be Matt Reeves." It shouldn't be anyone. Just let directors make their movies and just.
if anyone, it should be that they have now, because apparently he is working on multiple DC projects. Is fucking James Gunn.
Yeah, and then I've also heard rumours that they're trying to get Kevin Feige to do both Marvel and DC.
I think there was something that he nearly jumped ship because of Ike Perlmutter, or one of the guys who was ahead of him.
He hates Ike Perlmutter, but everybody
doesn't
does.
deal with him anymore. I think he nearly jumped ship then, but...
Yeah, but they no longer... I think you're right. I think they don't have it to do with each other anymore. But, just no. Just don't. Just let Matt Reeves do his Batman movies. Let Todd Phillips do his Joker movies. Just let filmmakers make films. Let them do their Val Zod movie with Michael B. Jordan. Like, just let filmmakers make films. It doesn't need to be connected. It doesn't need to be a shared universe. You don't need to have a team-up movie. You're not Marvel. Stop trying to be. It's so frustrating.
I don't know. I think they're close enough. Like, they're called the Big Two for a reason. Like, it's...
I know, but I think
they're close enough.
I think cinematically, though, I don't agree. I don't think they're close at all cinematically. I think...
Well, I would personally think it doesn't have to be as large a scale of MCU, and you don't have to have every single thing connected, because DC, in my mind, is more known for having different offshoots, different worlds. Like, they've had the more... Like, Marvel have obviously came out with the multiverse idea, but, like, Marvel really only had the... Like, it was really only by the noughties that they had, like, two competing universes. DC have had, like, Earth 1 and Earth 2 for quite a while, like. Yeah. So, I think...
After Earth was, like, late 70s, wasn't it? So...
You don't have to have it as big. Do you know what I was actually randomly watching today was the bad ending version of Injustice 2, which just seems so shite. But I couldn't help watching it, and I watched like all... So basically just shows the last couple of fights for each thing, and I was just like, this is shit. The character designs I thought were horrible.
Injustice 2 was alright. I didn't hate Injustice 2. It was quite fun.
Probably because I just don't like DC. But
the first game's better, but Injustice 2 is alright.
Now, I did hear that they were thinking of whoever's, like, because they're trying to streamline DC. Another thing was scrap... Well, I don't think they have to scrap all of them, but scrap all Superman projects and focus it on Henry Cavill, which I don't think that, again, they have to do. I'd totally be okay with seeing them doing different things, but give fucking Henry Cavill the job again.
What is so annoying about that? Apparently, Henry Cavill's been going to DC, or going to Warner Brothers with directors and saying, "Here's a pitch. Can we make this movie?" And Warner Brothers have been saying no. Like, he's done it like 3 or 4 times, and apparently he's getting really sick of it, and he's ready to just say, "Do you know what? No worth it."
He's one of the best casting fucking things they have. He is perfect casting for Superman.
He was made to be Superman.
And the fact that they're just not... I mean, I don't know. I don't think... I don't know the directors or the writers that he's been bringing in, but surely one of these stories must be worth telling.
I don't know. They're fucking
so much source material.
I don't understand. Like, because, like, look, I know you're saying, like, they don't need to be like Marvel. Look what Marvel have been doing. Like, you have a blueprint there. You just have to fit. Like, even if they just, like, and again, they don't have to do it on such a big scale, but just do a little bit of what they're doing. They kind of tried to do it, but they Zack Snyder, who's fucking terrible. So, like, I mean, look, he's some all right films, but
he's up and down. Yeah,
I just think in average his choices are fucking wrong. But like, you've got perfect casting for Superman. I also share a second of screen time with Henry Cavill as I was an extra on Tudors, and I poured him some wine.
Oh, no.
But it was Ribena. So it's just because of that I think he should. But he did seem like a really cool guy. He was because it was him and. There's no point talking. But it was him and John Rhys Meyers and some other guy on set for the day. But Henry Cavill hung around between setups. And not as a slight on John Rhys Meyers, but whatever. Henry Cavill just sort of hung around in between setups, and he was just like talking to the crew. He was he seemed like a really sweet dude. That was I think I might have heard at that point that he was in the running for Superman, because he was really early. Like, he was number 2 when fucking Brandon Root got it.
Right.
But yeah, he's perfect casting. He looks exactly what like a continuation of Christopher Reeve Superman should look like, and just I don't know, they're fucking just terrible ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But speaking of other DC projects, Black Adam has a trailer. The Rock's new
Other Black Adam
Shazam spin-off.
projects. That's what you were going to say.
Yeah, I'm going to say other Black Adam projects.
Just one.
What?
There's just one.
Just one. Well, they're doing a Shazam too. It might be in that. Yeah. Do you want to see this? I mean, I'm interested to see The Rock as a villain.
But he's not.
But they're kind of not, yeah.
Be a villain though.
Yeah, that's my.
They're already straight up being like, "Oh, you'd be a good guy."
Yeah.
Because
he's
The Rock.
He's going to kill people, but he's going to do it for the greater good, which is not what I want.
It's just
I like him. I think it looks like it's going to be fun, but I would just lower your expectations a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like good superhero fun, like because it's got like a couple other characters appearing in it. But it's straight away, it's just like I think they were like, what would be a good casting for The Rock in a DC project, and they were like, oh well, Black Adam is kind of of it, like is he supposed to be Egyptian or he's just magical, or what was he supposed to be originally? The Rock would looks like good casting, but then they were like, oh well, it's The Rock, so we're just gonna have to completely change this character to make it suit him being the lead in the film. Like he'd be great casting, but like because he's The Rock, he wants to be. I want to be a superhero. I want to look the part,
and he's got to build for that. And
although I do have to say, he looks his age in this film.
Think so?
Yeah. I mean, his body's still incredible, but like facially, I feel like he looks his age.
Looks older, yeah. Well, he's only like 50, but he still looks great.
But what I'm worried, the only concern I've got, Shazam was good because it wasn't great, but it was good because it kept a bit of the humour, it kept a bit of a kind of lightheartedness to it, and it had a bit of heart. Aquaman was terrible because it took itself far too seriously. And I'm just watching this trailer, I hope it doesn't take itself too seriously.
No, I think I'm getting the same kind of vibes from Shazam as what I'm getting from this.
I hope so.
Not quite as funny, but like The Rock can be funny. Yeah. Like he is funny.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, funnier than Zachary Levi. But yeah, I think you're gonna get. I hope I'm right, but I think you're gonna get the charm from this.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of like Black Manta and what's called Aquaman, and just thinking, oh, what a waste of that brilliant actor.
But
like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's a brilliant. That's the basketball player. Abdul Mateen II. That's his name. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the basketball player that's an airplane. No, Abdul Mateen II. He's phenomenal, and he was totally wasted in Aquaman. So let's hope they don't do that again.
Yeah, I don't know. I seen Shazam really late, like only 2 or 3 months ago, and I thought it was just a great family film that happens to be a superhero thing. Never saw Aquaman.
Perfect film, but it's fun. Fun.
Yeah.
Don't watch that garbage. Aquaman's garbage.
Yeah, no interest.
Trash.
Well, I heard it. I think at a certain point it was like, oh look, it's a DC film that isn't actually that bad, but it's still only kind of a bit mid, I guess.
I really wasn't a fan. So shall we move on to the gaming news, because there's been a bunch of stuff announced gaming wise.
Yep.
The State of Play happened. Sony had a State of Play event. Then we had the Summer Games Fest, and currently there's another kind of ongoing online event called the Summer of Gaming. So there's been a bunch of announcements made and stuff coming out. The biggest one, I don't know, there's a few big ones. The one that I think I'm most interested in is the Resident Evil 4 remake. That was announced at the State of Play, and I love the Resident Evil 2 remake, and I love Resident Evil 4. So I really hope that this is... It looks like they'll take their time with it more so than they did with Resident Evil 3. So I really hope that it nails that whole vibe that Resident Evil 4 had, that whole kind of village vibe and the whole cult thing. And what I also thought was always exciting about 4 when I first played it, Resident Evil 1, it was zombies. Resident Evil 2, it was more zombies. You know, the first 3 games, it's zombies you're fighting. Whereas Resident Evil 4, it seemed like we were speaking earlier about zombies versus infected. Resident Evil 4, it was more just like infected villagers, which then turns out they're, you know, infected umbrella creatures. But at the start, they just seemed like psychotic villagers that come after you. So I added an element of mystery to the series that it kind of went away, and I hope that's going to be recaptured with this remake. Yeah, I think the graphics look great too. It looks gorgeous.
Well, I think, like, I was talking to some people about it. I've actually, like, because I've been playing 2 now again. Well, actually, I haven't played it in fucking about a week or two, but I started up 2 again, which I used to have for my PC, but now I have for my PS5, because I haven't touched any of the many games that are on my PC since I bought a PS5. And like I only got I got to like did the first little thing at the police department, and I was just like, this is way better than fucking. It's way more terrifying than 3. Sorry, I just randomly I've been deep diving on Resident Evil since. One thing that I think I would imagine is going to be quite different. I think all that cheesy humor that started in 4 and bled like 5 was just complete Festivus. I don't think that's going to be there at all. I think it's going to be played very much like 2 and 3, where it's just like there's bits of it, but it's more like taking itself a bit seriously. Where I don't think any of that humor will be there. Like I'd imagine just going on 2 and 3, they're going to be quite true to the fact that it is going to be more actiony. They're going to be, there's going to be some melee moves like suplexes and kicks and that kind of stuff. I can imagine they're going to keep that element, but I think it's just going to be fucking a lot grimmer,
less goofy. Yeah,
because I don't think 2 and 3, even though 3 had that change up of you probably had more ammo in 3. The lighting was a bit different in 3. Obviously, it was shorter, so we didn't get the full effect. But 3 was, from my memory, is played very much like 2 story-wise. I think it's going to bring that serious element to 4 that wasn't really there. Like, there was bits of it in thing, but it was a bit more schlocky, like.
Yeah. No, I think you could be onto something, and I think something else that might hint towards that. The trailer, the village that he goes to, it seems to have a bit more of a darker feel visually than what the original did. Like the original was made more sepia toned, whereas this one seems more kind of cool colours and kind of blues and greys. And I wonder if that's hinting towards the darker kind of tone as well.
And one thing I've noticed that with 2 and 3, and I think a lot of people, because like 3 was kind of maybe rushed out the remake, that which was probably there in the original games, but it felt much different. Like, and maybe because in the 2 remake they made Mr. X, they made him more of a nemesis character, where he's in the game a lot more. Like Mr. X is only in the second scenario when you're playing the original 2, isn't he? Doesn't show up in the first scenario.
Yeah.
So
I think that's right. Yeah.
In that way, even though like Nemesis isn't like, he's more scripted events where he shows up in 3 remake. I wonder I don't remember the character's name or whatever, and I don't think he was really played that way in 4 originally. But isn't there like a main lieutenant guy, the guy with the beard? Who ends up being like really mutated.
A big arm and a claw and stuff.
Yeah, but he shows up first, he's just like a normal enough. Yeah.
I remember that boss fight being hard as shit.
I feel like he will, because they're being remade in the same way, I feel like he'll fit into the Mr. X role more, or Mr. X Nemesis type role a bit more, so it won't feel like, because 2 and 3 were so different from 4 originally. I think this 4 will fit into that line a bit more, and it will kind of look, obviously it's not going to have the same effect of playing a PS1 game to a PS2 game. It's going to, I don't think it'll be as drastically different, because obviously it can't be, because it already revolutionized fucking third-person shooters going way back. So it's not, I think it'll probably be, just thinking now, I think it won't have as much of an effect, because people are like, oh, does it really need a remake? It was like, yeah, it kind of does. If they're remaking, which we get on to Last of Us again, even though they've already remastered it for PS4. Yeah, I think in some ways it won't be as big of a jump from 2 and 3, but it'll be that story bled back into a more serious tone. But I think certain elements won't feel as dramatically different. So it'll feel a little bit samey that you're going to have this one character like, right, he's the cookie cutter big guy who shows up every once in a while. Maybe he'll be like Mr. X in 4 or in 2 remake, where he haunts you throughout more of the game, or maybe he'll be a bit more like Nemesis, where it's scripted. But I imagine it won't. I imagine it'll probably feel a little bit more. I think they've learned their lesson. I like to think they've learned their lesson from 3, and they'll hold back and give it time. Well, they have, because it's fucking how many years since 3 came out now.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more. And like 4 was a long ass game, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was longer because it's PS2. It was the longest at that stage, so far. What about you? Are you excited for it?
Sure, I'm excited to watch you play it.
Right, well, we enjoyed playing through it too together.
Yeah, that was good.
See, it's fun. But talking about horror games, there was another kind of major announcement made that I was quite excited to see was the Callisto Protocol. I'd known for a while that the Dead Space developer team were the sort of core team that developed the first Dead Space game, were working on a new project, and it's here. It's called the Callisto Protocol. It does look very, very Dead Space. I mean, you're cutting about a space station. There's these haunting creatures chasing you. You've got a sort of mech suit that's got even the gunplay is very similar when you see them shooting at the creatures that's coming towards them. It's extremely reminiscent of Dead Space, but I have no issue with that. Like a next current gen PS5 gen Dead Space type game, sign me up 100%. It's a franchise that I've missed. They are also, funnily enough, EA are also doing a Dead Space remake as well, although we haven't seen any trailers for that yet. There's been one still image released.
And so Dead Space was originally EA too, was it? But
yes,
this is just the developers of it. My nephew was kind of filling me in on it. The developers have made their own company.
By, what were they called? I think it was a company that Amy Hennig eventually went to. She wasn't with them at that time though, but they also did Battlefield Hardline, I believe. Can't remember what the team are called now, but off the top of my head. But yeah, those guys, that's who's developing Callisto Protocol, whereas it's not Respawn. Respawn keeps coming, but it's no Respawn. I can't remember what they're called. But yes, because EA still have the Dead Space franchise, they are also developing a remake. But Callisto Protocol looks great. It was one of my other favourite announcements. I mean, it's Resident Evil in space. That's basically what Dead Space is. It's Resident Evil in space.
Yeah, because I'm seeing, I only seen very light. Sorry.
No, on you go.
Oh, I only seen very light bits of it here, so I'm actually just looking at a little bit of the gameplay footage. Because I think I just randomly seen like little snippets of the trailer. So what I'm looking at here is just the gameplay footage. And it looks very gruesome.
Yeah.
They're also just from the little bit of gameplay I've seen there, it looks like you're shooting off limbs too.
Yep. It seems like you're taking down enemies the exact same way as you did in Dead Space.
Yeah.
It really seems like it's obviously it's a spiritual successor. It's not a direct sequel, but it really does feel like
same vibe, same kind of people making it. And this is one of the indie games too that was announced. It's not actually a AAA.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the developers are publishing it themselves. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's a self-published game, so technically it's an indie game. Yeah.
Yeah, because my understanding of it was at that state of play there was, and we'll get into it in a bit, but my understanding of what it was like 6 AAA games and 3 indies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty gruesome here. I'm just like skimming over the trailer now.
So speaking of zombies and remakes, we are also getting Jerd alluded earlier, The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake of The Last of Us. They're calling it Part 1 because Last of Us 2 was called Last of Us Part 2.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why this is Part 1. So I watched the trailer, and it's essentially the same trailer from back in the day, but with the improved graphical quality. To be honest with you, when I watched that first trailer, I didn't really notice the improved graphics. I was like, does this look more like the second game or what? No. But when you see the side by sides, it becomes more obvious. I think things like the lighting stuff looks slightly improved, but the actual character designs, I don't know if I'm as much of a fan. They seem, in my opinion, less expressive. Possibly.
Yeah. See, I still haven't played.
Ellie doesn't look. So in the first game, Ellie spends the whole game as a super kind of innocent, young, naive, making up as she goes along type character. Whereas when you watch the trailer for this remake, she looks more badass and experienced. And it's like at this stage in her life, she didn't have a clue. Like, okay, by The Last of Us 2, that's the character she is, but in the first game, she's not there yet, and it just seems like a loss of innocence and a loss of kind of, I don't know, like surprise or anxiousness. She seems more sure of herself, and I'm like, that's not where she is yet. And Joel also seems a bit less aggressive. He seems to me more like a kind of cozy dad vibe than a kind of aggressive survivor like he was in the first game. Because again, the whole point of the first game is he is this aggressive, does anything to survive type guy, and then this girl kind of softens him and he becomes,
Yeah.
turns out your father. But because he's lost his daughter at the start of the game, that's why he's so hardened and so doesn't trust anybody, and he kills anybody that even threatens him slightly. And, he's got this kind of standoffish vibe, survivor vibe. Whereas in this trailer, when you see clips, even in the early game, it looks way more like Ellie's more comfortable with a gun, and Joel seems way more like, Dad.
Chilled.
And it's just
Yeah.
like, we aren't there yet. This is the second game we're doing now. I don't know. It just seems a bit strange. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I'm just going purely on the visuals, like just looking at their faces.
Yeah.
Expressions being pulled and stuff. Maybe when you play it, it'll be different. I don't know. But that's just the kind of impression I'm getting, and I don't know if I prefer that. And I also don't know if I bother, because as we're all saying, I feel like it'd be 5 minutes since I played The Last of Us Part 1.
Complete waste of time. Like that's when we seen this trailer coming out, and I was like, why are they showing you this? They're like, oh, because they've remade it. And I immediately went, why?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I told you why, because they
I know
literally...
why.
But it's so dumb, the reason they literally didn't know what to give the developers to do. Like, they'd finished work on Last of Us 2, and apparently the Naughty Dog Hades, the kind of heads of the office, had a meeting, and they were like, right, we're not ready to do Uncharted 5 or whatever the hell the next project is, or whether it's a different IP, a new IP. They didn't have anything ready, and I genuinely think there was a conversation where it was like, the Last of Us TV show's coming out, should we just remake the first game? And they were like, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Like,
See, I never...
reason to make this game, but yeah.
Yeah, I've still never played the first one. Like, I've started it. My housemate had a PS3, so I bought it for that. I borrowed it off an old housemate to play it on the PlayStation here. I just never got around to it, and then I bought it secondhand. But then I got the PS5, so I have it downloaded on my PS5 now. The PlayStation 4 remaster.
It's part of the collection, isn't it? The PS Plus
collection. PS Plus collection, yeah. But I haven't touched it because, like, I was playing Days Gone, which I haven't played in fucking ages. But in my head, I think maybe from your voice, Dan, it was like, oh, play Days Gone first and then play Last of Us. It's like, I still haven't played God of War. I've only started that. So, and now I've kind of gone back on this other side current of playing the Resident Evil games. So it's, it's way down the list to actually play that one. But... Yeah. So the PS4 remaster was just an update to the graphics, but this is technically a remaking on the new engine that they did 2 on. So the characters will have more functionality.
So I believe, I don't know if there's any additional dialogue. I don't know if they've brought Troy and Ashley back to do more dialogue, or if it is just the same dialogue from that original game, because the performances are so good. That's what makes that first game, that I can also feel like going back to that would be strange.
Yeah.
Getting those actors to redo that 10 years later, just weird. Especially for what I've heard them saying about playing these characters and how they were at a certain point in their lives when they played them, and now 10 years later, can you go back? There's so much kind of there as well with the voice acting that's a whole different thing. But I think it's the same voice audio material they're using.
Yeah, so they just recaptured the physical stuff.
There's an update to the graphics, and I think, like you're saying, Jerd, I think there's slightly, possibly more gameplay elements in terms of physicality. Like the set rope elements and stuff. I don't know if they're introducing that in this remake. But I do think there is, like, the UIs will be like more like the second game. So, like, they changed the interface for, like, switching your weapon, for example. And the first game was different as it was in the second game. The menus were a bit slicker, and the reloading and the ammo counter and stuff.
I think on a different engine, technically.
Yeah, because it was on a different engine. So I think that'll be more in line with the second game. So I think it'll be things like that. It will be cosmetic things like menus and visual graphic designs, character designs, environmental designs. I think that'll mostly be the update. I think in terms of the actual core game, the story and the performances, I think, will remain the same. I believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case.
Well, I just seen the side-by-side comparison. I think it's probably just because they already had the remaster and the first game isn't that old. Like, there's a far bigger gap between Remake and Resident Evil 4. But, like, when you start to, like, then when it comes to, like, Resident Evil 5 and 6, are they going to be like, are they still going to remake them?
I was going to say that when we were talking about Resident Evil 4, actually. I think 4 will be the last Resident Evil remake, because after that, you're up at the HD kind of generation. We can still go back, play Resident Evil 5 on the PS Store. You know, it's not it's a bit of a pain in the arse to get a copy of Resident Evil 4 and get a GameCube or a PS2 or a PC. I guess you can get a PC, but yeah. Whereas if you've got them all on one console now, or all on the one storefront anyway, all on the PS Store, then that makes it more kind of.
But it's so funny too, because they're going to be like, well, yeah, it's going to be PlayStation 6. Like, you're going to do it all again then? Like,
I know.
And they're probably not going to do it from that much of a jump, but I guess would say like The Last of Us, they're catching people who've never played it, like myself. But like in my head now, I'm like, should I play the PS4? Like, because by the time I get round to playing the PS4, well, the way I'd be thinking of it actually is, by the time I get round to playing the PS4 or by the time the PS5 remaster is out, it'll still be like, even when I get round to a point where I would have played Last of Us, like, so I finished Days Gone, I finished God of War. In my head, I'm like, well, PS fucking 4 remaster version is still going to be free for me, so I don't see the point in buying a brand new version of the game. And I guess they'd probably look at that people do replay these games. Like, I guess how many people would... Well, I guess I don't know. Like, how many people who played, like keen gamers, to borrow a phrase from the site you write for, how many keen gamers do actually just go back and replay games? And, like, is it that much different to go, like, well, look, I can fucking throw a bit of money into this and I'll replay it in its most up-to-date version? But then, actually, from looking at the side-by-side comparison on the character models, in my mind, from my view of not really playing the game, not being that familiar with what the characters look like in the first game, it kind of just looks like, I don't know which one, like, you know, that's a game that didn't age that well, or didn't age that poorly. So I'm like, what's the fucking... Like, it just looks like alternate takes on the same character. Like, they don't look...
It doesn't look
one doesn't go like, oh my god, it's so... It's like, it just looks like a different version of it.
Yeah, like a as you said, like a cut version, or like that was the original design and then they went with that one or something. The other thing as well, see if Naughty Dog were going to remake a game, remake the first Uncharted. Like, that is a game which, it's still fairly recent, it's still PS3, but it's way more dated than Last of Us. Like, The Last of Us came out at the very end of the PS3's life cycle. Uncharted came out at the start of the PS3's life cycle, and the PS3 was about for about 8 years before PS4 launched. So that's like a 7-year gap. Uncharted is so much more in need of a remake than The Last of Us is, which again is baffling. But I think the reason behind that is the TV show.
Because it's
show. But it's just had the movie. I know.
So you've got
I don't know. It's just strange. I would have remade the first Uncharted game as opposed to the first Last of Us game if it was me. But
it's so funny how, like, is it HBO's doing the show?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess the show the Last of Us has more of a critical, pedigree kind of thing, perception.
You mentioned God of War there, Jerd. What I was hoping for, we were kind of talking about our favourite announcements, but one announcement that we didn't get that I was looking forward to was an actual definitive release date for God of War Ragnarok. It was originally supposed to drop in 2022. Sorry, it was originally supposed to drop in 2021, I believe, and then it was delayed a year. We haven't heard anything since, and a lot of people are speculating 2023. However, Jason Schreier, who writes for Bloomberg, has said he has heard through sources that they are aiming for a November release, although they haven't sort of... I think the team aren't 100% sure they're going to make it, which is why they've not officially announced it yet, but all signs are pointing towards a release for that.
Yeah, because I just thought I saw a headline somewhere of this year. Yeah. No, next year.
It's not official. Well, there's still rumours saying 2023. There's rumours saying late 2022. I think this is the most credible rumour because Jason Schreier does know his stuff and he has a super inside.
I'm actually looking at his article now. Yeah.
So I reckon that's probably the most solid piece of evidence to go on. But I just want the game. Just give us a game or just give us a date or something.
Yeah. But again, I'm not bothered. Like I still haven't played one.
Yeah, you've got plenty of time. You've still not played the first one, so you're not first. Speaking of games that are sequels, and you haven't played the first one, Star Wars Jedi Survivor got a trailer, and it will be next gen only. I don't know how much I care about this because I wasn't a big fan of Fallen Order. I found that to be a super unfinished game when I played it.
So glitchy.
Yeah, it was super
Yeah.
glitchy.
Oh, I think I've seen some of that stuff. Yeah.
It came out in a post Dark Souls world, so it was trying to be very, Dark Souls diet.
Yeah, because
A
I was
fun
just gonna
Star Wars
say
game.
a mate of mine who famously in the relationship of our history of our friendship has been known for his crazy hot takes. But he was telling me about Dark Souls and thing, and I was like, and he mentioned that going oh, maybe try Jedi Fallen Order first. It's a bit like it. It's a nice entry point for that kind of game. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But
There
I
you go.
hate Dark Souls games, so that really put me off Star Wars. Fallen Order, for me, Fallen Order, it didn't feel like a Star Wars game because you never felt you were a Jedi. You were one of the surviving Jedis from Order 66, and you never felt powerful. You always felt like you were on the defense, like
Yeah.
you were just swinging this laser sword, defending yourself and trying to survive. Which that's what's called Survivor, so maybe they've clocked onto that. But for me, a Jedi is supposed to feel powerful. Do you know what I mean? If you've got this big laser sword and you've got the Force, you should feel powerful. And if you take that away, it's not a Star Wars game at that point.
Yeah.
And that's why it wasn't fun. And that's probably also to do with my expectations. I went in expecting. It came out off the back of the cancellation of Star Wars 1313, which was Amy Hennig, speaking about Uncharted, Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, which was cancelled, which has now been revived, thankfully. But
Okay.
at that time, it had been cancelled. We didn't think we were getting a revival. And then when Fallen Order came out and it looked kind of Uncharted-y, there was sections with platformer, and I was like, great, this is the substitute I was looking for. No, it's not. It's just a Dark Souls clone, and it doesn't feel like a Star Wars game. And it doesn't play great. It's glitchy. It's EA. It's unfinished.
And it's my nephew was telling me before, Dark Souls is more defensive, but then is it Bloodborne? More. It's so maybe the same studio. That's more of an aggressive play style, but similar but aggressive. So that's how you kind of categorize both. So one is more defensive and one is more aggressive.
I don't really see the difference between the From Software games. I'm not a fan of those games. I played Demon's Souls back in the day, forced my way through it. Didn't really enjoy it. Dark Souls came out when I was in college. It was never my thing because I thought, you know what, life's too short to die 1,000 times. And then
I think I'd like that.
Bloodborne came to PS Plus, and although I played that because it was free, I really enjoyed the design. See the gothic design of the architecture and the monsters you were fighting.
Yeah.
Awesome. See the game itself, not fun at all to play. Extremely difficult. Seems what's the word? Kind of when you die, it doesn't seem fair. It seems somewhat unfair. And I was just like, you know what? I don't have the time. This is life's too short. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm in the minority. People love those games, but Elden Ring is huge. Elden Ring is breaking records.
It's the design that actually kind of put me off those games. They're too ornate and fucking like you're fucking fighting figurines.
But yeah, Star Wars sequel, I guess. I mean, I always thought Cal Kestis was a whiny bitch as well. See the main character?
Oh yeah, what's his face? Joker too and thing.
Yeah, Cameron Monaghan. No harm against him. I quite like Cameron Monaghan, but
the direction and script and such. Yeah.
Sorry, have you got anything else to add? Because I think this was for the news. If you want,
just the game, and I won't go too much into it. But I had a great surprise when I was watching the state of play that I vaguely mentioned a friend of mine in a previous episode who was working on a game. So I don't want I don't want to go too much into it exactly either, but just I think I'm safe enough to say points I can say here. So a mate of mine had told me long time ago that he was working on a game that was a rollerblading shoot 'em up, and I always thought I wasn't really as into games as I am now at the time, but I always was like, that sounds really cool. And I hadn't really heard much about it in a while. We talking month's time, and he was working with a team on it. And then at State of Play, I saw this rollerblading shoot 'em up called Roller Dome, and I was like, my first thought was, fuck, someone's robbed his idea for a game.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, that kind of looks like the style, and from what I'd last heard about it, that kind of looks like the game. And then I messaged him on Facebook, like, the fuck it is his game. So my mate's game, he's obviously working with a team on it. Production company is Roll7, I think. He's working with them. So it was announced as it's a PlayStation console exclusive. It was announced at State of Play, one of 3 independent games that were announced with it. And yeah, it looks fucking great. The hype for it. people are very responsive to it on this Twitter and such. And yeah, it's announced it's coming out this August, I think. And yeah, so just not much else to say on it other than it looks really fucking cool, and it's just madness to think that it's a game that my friend made. Well, it started just, like he did a team working with him.
That was my question. What is your friend's specific role? Is he the kind of is it his vision? Is he the kind of creative director behind it, or is he
I won't answer because I don't know fully. But basically, he came up with the concept and pitched it, and then a team. Nice. He pitched it to a company or something. I don't even want to get too much into that exactly because I don't know how exactly it works. I know he's still working on it, but I don't know. Did someone? I don't know the layout of it exactly.
I don't want to speak too soon and get pure overhyped, but look at Rocket League. That's how Rocket League started off as a small indie idea.
Yeah.
It was huge. Rocket League's made millions of dollars. It's a huge franchise. It's still being updated. I can't play it. But it's a huge successful indie game, and it can be done. So I really hope that the same thing happens to this game. And
yeah. This isn't player versus player, though. I don't believe.
Okay, is it player versus AI?
Yes, it's just right. I guess Tony Hawk's or whatever.
Well, what they could potentially do if they haven't, I see that as if I'm giving them ideas. Well, I'm sure they've thought about this. But what they could potentially do is if they've got the kind of base game against the AI, the online component could be something that they could add later. That's I've heard again.
Yeah, or come in again. But I don't think for this particular version of the game, it's just.
It looks honestly, it looks awesome, and what I also really like about it visually, it's done in that kind of cel shaded style, which sometimes people think that's a compromise because it's an indie game. But see, when you look at older games that have aged the best visually, it's always cel shaded games.
Yeah,
Ultimate Spider-Man in PS2 still looks.
Just going to say that, yeah.
That style ages so well, so it won't look old in 10 years' time. So that's cool.
And just the production of it. It's just madness. I just from knowing them too is to be very interesting for me to see because someone who's myself, I don't really know much about game development. That just to see how it works. I don't think I've ever known anyone who's worked on a game before. I think I know someone from one of my childhood friends works for EA, but I don't know to what level he works. But to be coming in from this now, he did not to say much about it, but because I have no kid saying anything about it. He did say it was very hard work. It's not
not easy, especially an indie studio. But no, I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
So with that, shall we move on from news?
I have news.
Oh, you had news.
No,
You have news.
No, that's
no. You give me your news. I didn't realise you did work for this podcast.
What's the news, Courtney? What's the story about? Don't worry. Is that Scottish?
Yeah.
Mine's was for the new Scream movie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Because I am a humongous Scream fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off super, super excited about that. And then, obviously, all the stuff with Neve Campbell started to unfold with her. So I feel like that's quite unfortunate. But I hope it's kind of a bit of a trope where she's kind of no, I'm not doing it. And then they're like, oh, but here you go. And then she's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
That's what Bender did. What's his name?
I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's the same kind of situation because it really would not be anywhere near the same.
It'd be so awkward.
Campbell in it. It would just be
to be like, yeah.
So
she is, obviously other characters or actors have returned to it, but still.
She is the Scream movies.
Yeah,
you cannot have a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott in it.
She's
That's
the
just
final.
Madness.
She's the final girl in all of those movies.
Yeah.
Sorry, detour here a wee bit. Who is married to Marilyn Monroe? Was it Joe DiMaggio or John DiMaggio?
Joe DiMaggio.
Right, so John DiMaggio is Bender.
Okay.
It's the one that wasn't married to Marilyn Monroe. And one is Bender.
The one that's not a baseball player and now dead.
Yes.
Okay.
That's Bender. That's what I remember the name.
I didn't even know Marilyn Monroe was married. I still haven't seen because I have year episode of for our consideration. What's our section?
Yes,
for
our consideration. That's
I
it.
shouldn't have done
that.
Yeah,
also that podcast, same podcast.
Yeah.
Courtney.
Yeah, because Massimo called
fantastic host Daniel and just Courtney.
I think Massimo at some point was like, "Oh, we'll call our section when we're watching and reading stuff for our consideration. Then you call your podcast for your consideration." I was like, "No, we shouldn't do that anymore because it's too confusing." So your podcast is for our consideration.
Yes, FOC for your consideration.
FOC, fuck. Yeah, so we'll keep that sad from future. Our section has just been we've been watching the shit. Because it's too confusing. It hasn't been close. Because I know you did an episode on that, and I'm meaning to listen to that, but I'm kind of in two minds because I like Scream back in the day as when it came out, but I'm just like, I think I've seen 3 was the last one I seen. I couldn't really. It's not that I don't know. I think certain 90s films, even though they weren't exactly in the 90s, they probably came out. Well, yeah, I think most.
Yeah.
1 and 2 are probably in the 90s at least.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So I don't know. Certain 90s stuff I'm like
it was like 93 and then 96 or something.
And then 93 was 2000, yeah.
93 it couldn't have been, was it?
I think so.
Maybe 94. Round about there.
94? No, that has to be later.
I'm pretty
Really?
sure it's before we were born. I'm pretty sure. We were born 95.
Well, I know. Oh, because you're babies, No, because I remember being of like
96.
at least
96.
Yeah, because I knew like in my time frame there, I was like, I know Buffy was at the start of the second one, and Buffy had started, but I don't know if it was fully Buffy at that point. And Buffy was 97, so 96 was the first one. Yeah, so I think that was probably around season 2 of Buffy that 2 came out.
So you,
but yeah, I just haven't got been arsed watching. But yeah, I must.
Saying that Matthew Lillard and David Arquette were both pretty pissed about.
David Arquette came out on his Instagram story, although he took it down fairly fast afterwards. But he came out saying, just to be clear, like, I stand by Neve Campbell, like, it's bullshit, basically. And then Matthew Lillard came out and said that basically when you look at like a film like Top Gun, the new Top Gun, for him, like, Tom Cruise didn't take any less money for that. Like, if anything, Tom Cruise probably would have got more money for that than he did for the first one.
100%.
So why should she take any less for her 6th installment in this franchise? Like, she's dedicated her full career to that.
Whereas, and did she get... So are they paying her less than what they would for the more recent one?
So she put in a figure. Like, her agent put forward a figure, and they were like, no, you can have this. And she was like, well, no, you'll need to fit me in.
Yeah.
Which I think is completely fair. Like, that's absolutely her prerogative, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame because the Scream movies coming back was a pure hype moment.
Yeah,
it's good again, and there's more coming out, and now it's kind of like a wee bit so yeah, I really hope, like you're saying, she kind of changed her mind and hopefully.
And is she still, without going into it too much, is she still like the main character, or is she treated as? Is she the main focus of the whatever killer it is?
She is the main character, but the last movie was kind of a passing of the torch to a new generation.
Yeah, so there's a new kind of like the new killer had a focus on a different person. Also,
no, Sydney's still quite a focus on the new one.
Yeah.
Like say the Halloween films, like Jamie Lee Curtis is still the main focus of Michael Myers. I know the thing with Scream usually is copycat killers.
Does to anyone else
is always connected to.
Okay. Yeah.
You should watch the new one, Jerd. The new one solid.
I haven't seen any of them at all, like my full life, until I got COVID in like March, and then that full isolation, we just watched one after the other, and I loved them.
Okay, right.
And I hadn't seen the new one. It was really good seeing that.
Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't be as arsed going back and watching the. Yeah, so I don't have a big soft spot for much 90s stuff that I like certain things, but not like. You know, someone would want to watch fucking, like, you know, if I was in a situation where someone wants to watch fucking, I don't know, like fucking A Time to Kill or fucking A Few Good Men, I'd be like, oh, couldn't be fucking arse, like, but not that that's that 90s stuff, but like, I wouldn't feel right, though, if I was to just jump in and watch the most recent one. I'd feel like I'd want to watch 4. I know 3 wasn't supposed to be great, but 1 and 2 are still held up, so maybe I don't know. That's what puts me off watching stuff sometimes. I'm like, well, I feel like I have to watch all of this before, like the Watchmen TV show. I feel like, even though people are saying you don't need to read the comic to watch the book, I feel like I'd want to. Or The Many Saints in New York, people would say you don't have to rewatch all the Sopranos. I was like, I feel like I should, to get the most out of it, like really. But yeah, that is shit, and hopefully that it is fucking sorted out. Like,
hopefully. See how it goes.
So, because we have been away for a few weeks, we've been watching a bunch of stuff, and we are going to talk about that today, and that is going to be our topic. So let's move on to that. Get a couple of older ones out the way because I finally got around to seeing Morbius, and was it as bad as everybody made out? I don't know. It was just, it's a boring movie. It's just a
boring. I think is the main fucking criticism of it. It's not bad.
I fell asleep.
It's not so bad. It's good. It's just boring. Which I thought about Venom. To be fair,
the only part that's like horrifically, oh my god, this is shit, is the post-credit scenes with Michael Keaton. Those scenes are really, really piss poor handled. Like, fly in the face of everything that was discussed in Doctor Strange in terms of incursions, because now Michael Keaton's Vulture's just cutting about another universe with no problems. Building his own Vulture suit, even though the Tinkerer's not in this universe, so how the hell did they build his own suit?
And he's now wasn't the guy.
So many plot holes.
We did an episode talking about Morbius without having seen it and just hearing it.
Yes, and we were right about everything. But yeah, and then the funniest thing though is that the memes, obviously the memes have been great, the Morbin Time memes and greatest film ever, best in Citizen.
And the list of all the Morbius films that are going to come out over the next 40 years.
Yeah, it's like 20 Morbius films.
Some of Morbius 7 or something.
But the way to ruin a meme is to get the company behind it involved. Sony have seen the memes. They got Jared Leto to do this dumb Instagram video, I think it was, where he reads the script from Morbius 2, it's Morbin Time. And that was a kind of semi-announcement video because Morbius was returning to theatres based on all the memes. It returned to, I don't know, like a couple of thousand theatres, and it made something like $80.
Yeah, I think it worked out like, but I think
it made less than 200.
It sold about 2 tickets on average per cinema was released in.
I think it made less than. Did it make less than $200 per theatre? It made like $170 per theatre or something.
I think opening night it worked out because it was released in maybe 1,000 features, which I actually thought was really weird. It was. Well, I guess there's only. Well, no, I still think it's weird. I think it's released in 1,000 cinemas, but then they were like. That's still what it was re-released in is still more than your average indie film would be shown in cinemas. I was like, really? In America? It's only shown like your average indie film? Yeah. I think it was something like what it was re-released in was like 1,000, which is only it's just less than half of like if that was doubled, it's more than what your average indie film would get a screening in as many cinemas. So I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, weird. But I think like the opening night, it worked out on average at about, because I've heard different podcasters talk about it, it worked out on average at about 3 tickets per cinema. And then, but then it made up to about 200,000 over the weekend as re-release, which is still shockingly bad. Now I've seen the memes going, oh, sorry, or there's a campaign things like, oh, sorry, we were busy last weekend. We'll go see it if you release it again.
Well, that's the thing. That's the most hilarious thing is that they released it and it flopped, and then they released it again and it flopped. So if they were to do it a third time, it'd be amazing. But
it cost them a certain amount of money. Look here, Morbius. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Speaking of re-releases, which I thought was already confirmed for May, which May had passed and never heard anything about it, but they're re-releasing the extended cut of Spider-Man No Way Home in September, I believe. But I was sure, like I know a friend of mine had said it to me, but I was sure I'd actually seen a headline going, oh no, it's coming back these dates in May, and just passed and never came out. So they had advertised this certain casting Blu-ray re-release or Blu-ray release of the film that was supposed to have all these extra scenes, and people pre-ordered it, and then when they actually got the DVD, it had none of those scenes. So those scenes are now going to be an extended version of the film. I don't think it's going to change that much. I think it's because I heard different numbers of like 20 minutes extra of the 3 Spider-Man scenes in total, or maybe just 20 minutes in total of extra scenes. That seems like a lot just to have extra bits of the final bit. I know I've seen a still of. Now I don't know if it was shot with all graphics and stuff, but there's no reason why they couldn't do that now. But a scene of Toby on the Green Goblin's guy, they're fighting Green Goblin because he doesn't even fucking
On the
speak
bridge.
to Norman in the
Yeah.
film. So that'd be great. But I think it'll probably just be extended stuff. It won't change any of the. It won't be anything big enough to change continuity. Like, I think it'll just be extended stuff of stuff that was either officially cut and just like I don't know. There's an elevator scene that we've seen released, so I don't think it'll be an awful lot of change to it. But I'll just go watch it.
We also watched X, which I think you watched on before the previous episode, Jerd, but
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Great,
really
throwback.
good.
Kind of
Really
somewhat,
dumb, but kind of what you're looking for.
kind of tongue in cheek, but also really dark and it's quite scary at some parts and well acted. And yeah, solid kind of. It felt quite low budget. It felt quite contained, which I liked. It felt quite claustrophobic almost.
Yeah.
And the score was phenomenal because it was set in the time it was set in the 70s. The music was solid. I liked the kind of. There was also kind of political undertones with Nam and stuff going on. And the villain was played by Mia Goth, who also played the final girl in the movie. So really cool to see her playing both roles.
Yeah.
And apparently she is going to play I can't remember what the old woman's called.
The main character. Did she get a spin-off?
She's getting a spin-off.
Prequel thing.
Prequel,
because I didn't cop in the credits. So in that house, I guess we shouldn't maybe go into spoilers if it's still kind of like a recommendation. But in that house, there was like an evangelical person talking on the TV, and that was just on repeat. But in the post credits, which I didn't cop, I think when I was watching it, you see her picture in those post credits, like on the TV. So I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but out of context. Yeah, so it's her picture is shown on that TV broadcast. So out of context, I don't think that really makes much difference. But what's this? Sorry, I'm literally looking up something about the director now. He's made a few things that I didn't even realize. So I was looking that up. So sorry, I'm kind of completely jumping off there. But a friend of mine recommended me a film, and it's called The House of the Devil from 2009, and it's by the same director, and Greta Gerwig's in it. Tom Noonan, I think, who I really got to know from the Louis C.K. TV show and stuff, but I know he's appeared in a lot of different stuff. But he's done a lot. So he's done a lot of TV work. But yeah, The House of the Devil, same kind of throwback kind of thing. So if you're looking for something to watch tonight, cool. It looks pretty good.
Cool.
It's a fucking great film. And then, who's the guy? Day and Night. Day and Night.
Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was so good.
When I started watching, I was like, "Is that Kid Cudi?" He's like, "No." He looks so different.
He was so good on it.
Does he normally have facial hair?
Sometimes.
Or a beard sometimes.
And then the hair as well.
The fro and the accent. I don't think I'd ever seen him do an accent before.
Yeah, he was great. I thought he was
really good. It was like, because I didn't even, it was for me, he was unrecognizable apart from the fact that I did kind of recognize him, but I was completely second guessing myself. I was like, I had to look it up afterwards.
You're like, that guy looks a lot like Kid Cudi.
Yeah. Oh, so this guy's done a couple of films. There's another film here, I think he directed, called In the Valley of Violence, which could kind of bring us to our next thing that we're talking about. Ethan Hawke is in it. Yeah, and he wrote and directed that, so I don't know what that is. And John Travolta's in it.
Wow.
Tassia Farmiga, her mother is in...
Tina Farmiga's daughter.
Yeah. Who I don't think I've seen anything, but I just realised she's an actress recently. James Ranson, who's in which again could kind of lead into thematically, he was in It. He played one of the older kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Karen Gillian, Toby Huss. Sorry, I don't even know. I'll look it up on IMDb. But yeah, History of Violence. So in a valley of violence, he did the Scream TV series, one episode directed. So I'm actually just going through this guy's filmography because he seems to have a lot of stuff. There's VHS, which kind of looks like maybe an anthology film.
VHS is great. It's just horror shorts that have all been... It was originally made in Spanish, and then they made an American version, I think, Can't remember that. I think
Okay.
they're very similar. I think it might be the same guy that made both, which is quite rare for horror.
Yeah, because he
Horror
directed a
remakes.
segment, and
But
it's
yeah, VHS is great. It's really really creepy and really. It's kind of like
right.
Love, Death
It's
and Robots, but for horror. You know, it's just different
okay.
horrors.
I'll
Some
fucking
are
give
like
that a go.
ghosts, some are serial killers, some are.
Well, that's
It's just
Directed
different
by
horror stories, but it's good, yeah.
fucking Saint
There's
Vincent
two
doing.
or three movies.
Oh, and Joe Swanberg. He's done a lot of good stuff. Shit, this looks interesting. I might go on a rabbit hole of this guy's work. So Ty West, sorry, is the director and writer.
Yes, Tyler.
But yeah, I just realized his other stuff there. I'm gonna just look up in a Valley of Violence too.
Yeah, excellent song. Really enjoyed that. Best horror I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was fun.
So we go to and then in the Valley of Violence 77 Rotten Tomatoes, which I know I shouldn't really be too focused
Are
on
you
that, but that's good.
thematically going to lead into Stranger Things by any chance?
Well, more actorly, because so Stranger Things came out 2 weeks ago. Season 4, Volume 1.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Same as Kenobi.
I'd seen. Oh, Kenobi. Nah, that's the thing we have to say about that.
I'm kind of enjoying it. I don't know.
I quite like it.
It's
I
up and
didn't like that one.
The latest episode, is it? 4.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, I didn't like Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba
I
Fett's
totally
garbage.
feel like
I didn't
Boba
watch
Fett.
it at all. I just heard it was kind of gammy.
This
so I was
is
like,
a
yeah.
massive improvement.
I'm really enjoying Ewan McGregor's performance. I am enjoying Joe Edgerton's
I love the wee girl.
stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Leia's great.
That really hurts. Little Leia is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I think what I think might be the main issue is the script and the direction. Because at first I didn't think she was great, but then I watched 3 episodes in a row, the first 3 in a row, because that's what came out, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
they did.
Yeah.
I watched it at first. I was kind of like, I don't think she's a great actress, but then after like maybe an episode or two, I was like, well, she's only in the first 2. She's very charming, very very charming, and yeah, I think it just has blind spots in direction. And to be honest, I watched 4 last night. I didn't think it was that bad.
Honestly, my whole thing is, I think they should have made it longer. Like, it's only 6 episodes, and my main issue so far, but not a main issue, just a slight issue I had so far that kind of stood out. In episode 4, we pick up with Obi-Wan immediately after. Spoilers if you're not up to date for Kenobi. We pick up with Obi-Wan immediately after he's just confronted Anakin for the first time since he saw him burn alive on Mustafar and thought he was dead. So here's this revelation, here's this guy alive. He's now this 8-foot death robot Sith Lord. You know, it's terrifying. He sees him like murdering villagers, like all this PTSD, traumatic shit he's seeing. And then they just address it in a 5-minute back to tank scene, like less than 5 minutes, and then they just move on to like, Leia's been captured again, and Obi-Wan's to go rescue her, and it just feels so condensed and so rushed. Like that, I feel like a whole episode we should get like half an hour of Obi-Wan having a breakdown because oh my god, I just fought Anakin and what the hell, you know, and Qui-Gon could appear to him and he could have a conversation with Liam Neeson, and like they could have done so much more with it, and it feels really rushed, and that's my main issue I think with Obi-Wan so far.
Yeah,
give it more breathing room. Give it 10 episodes. Give it 2 seasons. Give it
because this is really like as you were mentioning before. This is the first time. No, it's not the first time because Boba Fett was. Boba Fett was the first time we were seeing a film character taking up a role, but even though it was a different actor who obviously playing the original Boba Fett, this is the first. This is fucking Hugh McGregor. Like, obviously, look, Mandalorian fucking things. Pedro Pascal has become quite a big name in his own right. I wasn't watching films though. He hasn't really done many films, has he?
He's in that new one with Nicolas Cage.
But he hasn't actually
himself.
He's done Mando. Yeah, well, that's not really. I think it wasn't really. He wasn't Pedro Pascal then. He would maybe just been in Game of Thrones at that point. But like, I think really Mando has probably made him give him the biggest name. Now he's a massive name.
Yeah.
Which seems strange because he hasn't done much really. When you think about
I think it's a trilogy of Game of Thrones, Mando, and then The Last of Us. I think those 3 are going to really kind of
Oh yeah, but he's like I think even now he's got that name. Which is strange because he's only really done Mando and his face isn't there. But like,
I also think he's just really charming in real life and stuff. I think that helps.
Yeah,
like, he's just likable.
Yeah. But this is like Ewan McGregor, which this seems strange because the prequels weren't received that well, but he always was from the prequels. But it's just like, fucking write it better, direct it better. Like It's kind of like, I'm trying to think when you're the character, like, again, look, it's put it this way, it's Obi-Wan. This is like it would nearly have the same weight to it as if you had Mark Hamill playing Luke in a not de-aged and being the full character. This is like, yeah, look, the prequels weren't received that well, but it's Ewan McGregor, it's Obi-Wan. You've James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. It's the first time we've seen Darth Vader. Did James Earl Jones voice him in Rogue One?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And was he in that much?
No.
Nah, a couple of
I
scenes.
know he has that massive scene where he slaughters everybody, but like...
He has a conversation with Ben Mendelsohn where he chokes him and then he makes a joke. Do not joke on your aspirations, General, or something he says.
Okay.
He's in like a couple of scenes before that.
But this is big, like, this is a big thing. Like, from my point of view, a lot of Ewan McGregor's fight choreography, I know he's supposed to be, he's out of shape or whatever, but he's really, like, it just felt really cheaply done. There was a lot of, like...
Yeah.
It's just like, man, it's like, I think I feel like I've been in, like, I used to do a bit of acting, like, I feel like I've been in plays with better fight choreography than that, like, no, not really, I did one thing with it, fight choreography. It's cool, like, it snaps someone's neck. But, huh?
Fight choreography was my favourite part.
I didn't get to do much, but I had a fight scene. I think I have it videoed somewhere. I'd love to find it again. But yeah, because someone had to like break a twig off stage when I was snapped. Even though with these fucking chicken noodle arms, I couldn't do any fucking neck breaking. But apparently it's supposed to be physically impossible to really snap someone's neck like that. Anyway, Ewan McGregor's fight choreography, I just thought it was terrible. It was like, he gave some guy... Some of it seemed a little bit better, but like, going from where he was in the original series, which I think in episode 4 he got a little bit more back. Like, there was a little bit better. Like, I really liked the two stormtroopers just taking them out. Like, the lightsaber just flashes in the dark and then he takes them out. That was cool. And he seemed to even have a bit more of a spinniness back. But then when he's like force holding the water, and then he wasn't even force holding the water, he just outran it. Like, another podcast I listened to is called Double Toasted, and they were taking the piss out of that. It was like Jake Gyllenhaal outrunning the cold in Day After Tomorrow. But like, it was kind of cool that he was going to use it to push it out, but they were even saying, like, the two guys in Double Toasted were like, he shouldn't have, like, it shouldn't have even, that door shouldn't have even held it in, like, like, it was just... It was kind of cool if he could do that in a certain way, but it was a better metal door he was getting behind, and he was backing away while holding it. Maybe. But, yeah, I don't know. I watched 4, and then I watched into a podcast, and I was like, ugh. But I think in general, the writing and script is... People have their issues with it.
Yeah.
But where I was going with the Hawk person was Maya Hawke, to go from into Stranger Things, which so first 2 episodes came out. This new season started recently, but I hadn't seen 3, so I went back to watch 3. And when 3 came out, I had seen snippets of Maya Hawke, so I knew that she. At first, I was like, "Oh, she looks exactly like both of them." And then when I started watching 3, I was like, "No, she kind of just looks more like Ethan." But then from seeing picture comparisons, she looks exactly like both of them at the same time.
She's so like her mum.
I think she looks like her mother. It's unreal, yeah.
But she looks like Ethan too. And then she's got the voice of Uma.
Yeah.
You don't hear it all the time, and it's not maybe as full on, but it's there. Like, she's the voice of both, which is amazing. But
she is brilliant.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, it's very good. Very, very good.
And
I think she's done something with Ethan. But I don't know what it is.
She was good in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was in that.
Yeah, was she in that a little bit though? She was like
just at the end. Yeah, just at the end.
Yeah, so it was weird. It was like Bruce Willis's daughter, Kevin Smith's daughter, and her, and then some guy. I think.
Yeah, the guy. The guy's playing Elvis.
Yeah,
Austin Butler.
Was that him?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So just for me, just to really go over 3, I thought I was like, after watching, like, the first one was fantastic. I think I'd kind of forgotten everything that happened in the second one, but I was like, I don't think it had as good of an effect. The third one, while I thought it had some good points, I thought it just got a bit schlockier, and there was a lot of, like, picking up fucking sun cream and knocking people out. And, Steve look, everybody loves Steve, but he's a teenager and he's able to, like, how many fucking trained Russian soldiers did he knock out? And then, like, you know, like I could literally take who's the other guy, his main buddy,
Dustin.
Yeah, I could take Dustin taking out a scientist with a fucking cattle prod because he took him by surprise and it was a cattle prod and he was a scientist. He wasn't a soldier. But like Steve being able to fight trained soldiers, like I don't like. Did you see Dark? It was on Netflix.
Yeah.
So that Dark had a lot more brutal of a time, and there's elements that are obviously similar, set in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you put the Dark characters in that situation with the Russian soldiers, I feel like more of them would be killed straight away because they're only teenagers fighting.
But I also think that Dark had a darker tone.
Yeah.
You know,
but I think the first season of Stranger Things was a bit bleaker, and I think it was a little bit more realistic.
Perhaps, yeah. But I still, in my mind, Stranger Things is in the same kind of echelon of tone and stuff as Stephen King. Like, see if the kids can beat a demonic immortal clown, then the Stranger Things kids can beat up some Russian soldiers.
Yeah.
You know? For me, they kind of live in the same schlocky part of horror. I don't know.
And then it's funny because you get them same repeating actors. The
or
the one. Yeah. Wolfhard. Let me see. So then season. I don't know if there's anything on season 3. Obviously, look, that's fucking 2 years ago, but that stood out for me from that. I didn't think it was terrible. I just thought it wasn't as it maybe lost some of the appeal that one had, but then so season 3 we got there. Vecna. He just seemed really interesting. That's going to kind of push me into catching up, so I can see him.
Yeah.
He's a really cool villain. What you were saying about seasons, I do agree that I would probably say season 4 is the best since season 1.
Yeah. So full spoilers for volume 1.
Yeah, from this point on, I would just say full spoilers for, if you're not up to date for Stranger Things, probably just switch your podcast off now, because I feel like Stranger Things is probably the last time we're going to discuss before we wrap up. So we'll say that now. Subscribe, like, share, comment, all that.
Give us a rating on the podcast.
And then go and watch Stranger Things.
Give it a 5.
Watch Stranger Things and then come
back. Yeah.
So let's get into season 4. Vecna, the twist of Vecna was.
Can I just say, I called this.
You did call this
episode 2.
But I also think it's the first time I've really felt an effective twist in Stranger Things since the first season. And I think that's also why I like this season so much. Like, 2 and 3 didn't really have that element, whereas... And that, the first one didn't have any major reveals, but there was some reveals that made it interesting, that made it intriguing to look forward to the next episode. Like, are we going to get more information in this episode and things like that. I've kind of really felt that since the first season, whereas this new season had that. So I think that's also why I liked it so much, as well as good writing, good acting, good CGI, whatever.
Yeah, well, strangely...
good CGI. Some of it's a bit cartoony, but it's...
wasn't like... So, I think someone from the Weekly Planners podcast group had mentioned that they worked for Netflix, or they knew somebody worked for Netflix. That well, I've heard different things. Like, people were thinking, are Netflix trying to change their release order thing a little bit? So they're not just dropping everything at once and they don't get the hype built up about it. But I'd heard that the CGI wasn't finished for some of it.
Right. Oh. Well, I heard that they're still working on. See the episodes that are dropping in July. They're still working on them.
But I'd also heard that like even the stuff that's released now will get updated as time goes on. Which is strange. Yeah,
I did hear something about that. That's right. Yeah,
because like kind of going towards the end of it. So we're full spoilers out. We'll jump around, but like the end of it when there's because I think in the first season, the first episode we see the flashback to Elle, and there's all those dead people around her.
Yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't... What's her name?
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, that wasn't... To my memory, that was the younger actress that they had to play the younger 11 in that scene. But then in other scenes, it's Millie Bobby Brown's face on her body, but then in other scenes, it's not. And then in other scenes, it's not CGI Millie Bobby Brown. It's adults or whatever, current age Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
So, from my memory, the first time we see the flashback, it's not actually 11 with her face on it, with the actress's face on it, is it?
But it was. As far as I believe, there's in the flashbacks, there's 2 versions. There's current Millie Bobby Brown with her head. Well, it's not actually a head shaped, it's a wig. But with the short hair. But current, like, what, she's 17, 18-year-old
She's
Millie Bobby
18,
Brown
yeah.
wearing the gown, like, as she is currently.
Same height, so we can go by height.
Yes, same height,
Yeah.
yes. And then you also have the
Younger
short
actress.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown.
So she is played by another actress, but they have done CGI manipulation to her face, like deep
But
fake,
the actress
almost.
still
Not in every shot, I don't think.
so much.
Really?
I don't think it's in every shot. Because there's times where it's a bit ropey, you're like...
Yeah, there is
Some of
times
it
where
looks
the
a
actress
bit-
does, but the actress
deep
looks
fakey, but-
so much like Millie Bobby Brown anyway.
Yeah.
That I
Because
think
I
they
seen-
would be able to get away with it.
The shot of her with like the blood coming out of her eyes, which doesn't normally happen to her, or has that happened previously?
It happened in the first season.
Yeah, I think that
You've
happened
seen
once.
it in the first
Yeah.
season. For this, because you're meant to think that... I might be wrong, but I think in the first season you're meant to think that the Demogorgon killed everyone.
Yeah.
See, I do want to go back because
What?
there was so much flashback stuff. I do kind of want to go back and watch the first season
me
again
too.
to see if it all lines up. Because they did change quite a lot of Eleven's origin with this new season, and I do kind of want to go back and see. Now that I've got that
But
in my
see,
head,
11's origin was so sketchy as well.
I know, but
So
does it
Yeah,
make
it's
sense
supposed
to
to,
like
yeah.
where we pick up with her sort of thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I want to know. I'm sure it does because they write it, and I'm sure
That's
they
the
went back
opening
with the
scene,
first
isn't
season
it?
before they wrote the new one. But I would like to watch it with that in my head.
well, I wouldn't put it by.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown's great in this season. She's a real standout. Everybody's great. David Harbour, like a lot of his scenes. I said to you this too towards the end of the show. A lot of David Harbour scenes, because of the situation and the story, he's kind of on his own. He's isolated for the rest of the cast. And although he's got that fantastic actor from Game of Thrones, so I don't know his name, he's great.
Can't remember his name.
Although he's got him to play off, he's not got Winona Ryder and he's not got Millie Bobby Brown or any of the kids.
Mhm.
He's just himself, and he carries the scenes so well just on his own. I feel like David Harbour does a great job in this season. The guy that plays Maury, I'm not sure of his name, but he's brilliant in this season.
Murray?
He's
Murray-
great in everything. Anything I've seen him in,
Yeah.
he's fucking fantastic. He's
Yes,
in
yes.
Fleabag.
It's
He's
so
in.
funny.
Oh,
He's in a
Fleabag?
really weird film called Lemon, where it's just
Right.
this really weird tone to it, and he looks the exact same as he looks in this with the big beard and the bald hair.
Yeah.
That little Erica, can't spell America without Erica.
I hate Erica. She's my least favorite
Oh, I
character.
don't know. Just because I was watching people like talk
So
about
annoying.
the bit where she's talking to Murray in the "You bald bastard." She's like fucking 10. She's so
Yeah.
funny. I think I was talking about someone. She must be the same actress who played her since the first, because she was in the earlier seasons.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she is.
Yeah,
Same.
she's
They
same.
really looked out with their casting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thingy's still a piece of shit. What's his name? The basketball player. Lucas. God
Yeah.
damn, Lucas. He's such a wee turncoat
He
traitor
hates
piece of
Lucas.
shit, man.
Well,
Lucas.
he came
Always
round.
be a wee rat.
No.
But he came round and he
Came round.
misdirected
Ah,
the
okay.
job.
He's still out for himself. He's still douche.
Where I think some of the schlocky silliness comes in is for me it is some of that stuff with Hopper and Joyce and Murray. Like Murray's like, oh yeah, I bet up 116-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
in karate.
And it is there.
Well, like fair enough, he takes out your man flying the plane, and then they're
Yeah.
little. Before that, the twist that he was gonna like, I was like, what the fuck are they gonna do? Because like, well, how can they get out of this? So like. The first twist where your man's actually no, I'm going to bring you over there. To be honest with you, I thought all the Russian shit went on way too long. And even going back to season 3, and some of that shit with in the underground facility,
Yeah.
was fucking just stupid. Like, and then like even Hopper, like yeah, he's a big guy and he can fight, but these are trained soldiers. He should not be able to be that effective against them. Like he's a fucking sheriff. Like he's just some guy. Like but did he not? Wasn't he have a flashback or in a monologue about being in the army, or was he just working in a factory?
Yeah, no, he was working in the factory. Yeah, that's what it
Making
was.
the Agent Orange, and then that's actually
Oh,
how
yeah.
his daughter died.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
actually, in fairness, now I thought that monologue was quite good.
Good
But-
writing, yeah, good act.
Some of the stuff I've just like, and like I wasn't like absolutely against it, but I was like, when you're putting civilians against army soldiers, they shouldn't be that effective against them. Like, I'm sorry, but it's just like it's a bit daft. But it didn't bother me that much, and I'm actually just have the scene now of the flashback, and I'm trying to see was it. So in my mind, it wasn't Eleven's face or Millie Bobby's front face. Sorry. So some of that stuff I found a bit stupid when they're going up against the army soldiers, and then I could buy Murray taking out the guy in the plane, but then he takes out like 6 people,
Yeah, a few
six
more.
soldiers
Yeah.
in the thing, which
Yeah.
you're a little bit. Oh no, it is Millie Bobby Brown, I think. Yeah, sorry. So let's go back to the. So I can't screenshot this because it's Netflix, but yeah, it's Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we get strike for that. Some of that stuff. So then Hopper, when he's in the prison, like it's kind of interesting, but it just went on so long, and then some of it was smart. I liked Murray's plan and that it worked, but then again, they're in a fucking like the hardest prison to escape in all of Russia, and like
I
some
do
fucking
also
scientist and a mother just go in and
the prison seemed more threatening and foreboding in season 3, and then I do think they kind of dumbed down the guards a bit and stuff in season 4 so that it would be a bit more believable.
yeah. And why does he speaks Russian, but like why can he? How can his Russian be that good that he's fooling actual Russians? Like it's a little bit of like, oh yeah, whatever. It's a bit dumb, like. But it is like it's mainstream. It's fucking it's like that's I we'll come to the running up the hill bit in a moment, but it's schlocky. Like I don't think it's as good as I don't think, bar what the turns in the end of the season, I don't think it's held the quality that it had in the first season. But then again, at the end of the time, in the first season, somehow they managed to make a perfect copy of Will. That it could go into a coroner's office, but it was a dummy.
Oh yeah.
Do you know, like, and some things that they make changes like, oh, they don't have phones then, but they have this walkie-talkie that's got technology that makes it a phone. So some of the stuff is like dumb, but then other things like, I think more so than any other show, because sometimes when you watch these shows that are set back in the 80s, they're very heightened. That like it's like Mindhunter. Like I remember watching my housemate, former housemate, watch Mindhunter. I'm like, oh, this is a period piece. I had no fucking idea because they've tweaked the 80s clothes to make them look more thing. But these actually look like 80s people for the most part. Like Eddie Munson, I think it's just because they copied the Ramones. It looks perfect.
Yeah.
He has this stupid fucking long hair that no one would have now, but he looks like he's from the 80s. I think his character design is fantastic.
Yeah, and the boy playing him was done a great job too.
Yeah,
he's English, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, seen that.
Because another podcast I was listening to were like, they were convinced he was going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s son because he looked so much like him. I'm like, what? I didn't pick up on that. I look up Eddie Munson. So,
I see it now that you said it, but I didn't notice that.
I have to look him up. So when we go, season like I think it was more apparent in season. It was more apparent in season 3, but they were all split up in season 3.
Yeah.
Everyone was split up in season 3 anyway. And kind of go back to season 3 a little bit, the stupidity of it, the Mind Slayer thing, this thing's the size of a T-Rex, and like it's outside this old wickety house. Oh, I'll just send in my little arms. Or you can just break down the house and kill them all, like that kind of thing. So sorry, season 3. So what happens? They're all split up. Joyce and them live in fucking California now. Then we got the new stoner buddy, and now your man's just a stoner guy too. But I think they make him too. They just make him.
Yeah, they're funny.
But I think they make him a bit too stupid now. They're like,
yeah, they have. But I think that's because Nancy is obviously going to get back with Steve. And you can't feel if they were to keep Jonathan as a kind of fleshed out, rounded character, then you would feel bad for him. But if he's just a dumb stoner dude, it's fine. Like she can leave him for Steve. Like,
why?
No, I think that's why they're doing it.
They made him like that was the whole. Wasn't that season 3 or season 2 where like Jonathan and Nancy got together then?
Yeah, Jonathan was like a hero, but he started off as a kind of like awkward, weird, nerdy kid, and then became a kind of heroic, kind of.
But they're like a couple in real life.
But
too.
Yeah, a couple of
kind of
weird.
I just don't see the point in that. Like, give Steve a new. Because they're probably just we're fucking bursting at the seams with new characters because they're just constantly adding them. I think that's probably one of the main reasons. Well, I think it's something to do with Netflix shooting that they had to film them in pods because they couldn't have. It's easier to split them up. But they split them up in 3, and that was shot before the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't really. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't really like. I was like, why you like? It seems like treading old ground. Like I know that kind of happens in some like. I've no experience of it in life, but in TV shows. But like, See, the whole point of Jonathan and fucking Nancy getting together, and then just like, oh, well, now he's a stoner and they're not even going to talk this season and she's going to get back with Steve. It just seems a bit fucking stupid.
I also think that's just a product of writing a show as they go. Like, Steve in the first season was an insufferable bully douchebag character, and then in season 2 they made him a likeable...
He's changed,
he was by the end of the first season. So it's not like it didn't make sense.
Kind of, yeah.
But I do think...
And I really like the twist of Maya Hawke being lesbian in the... Like, it felt like, oh, he's just going to be their new love interest. But then she was like, oh, no. And then I didn't know when he started going like, oh, I kind of like someone. And then she just put her head in her arms. I was like, oh, that's really... I was like, what? I actually didn't know. I didn't cop it. So when she said it, I was like, oh. Yeah, I just think I think it's stupid for Nancy to do that. And for Steve. Because even at the end of the last season, he's like, oh, I don't love her anymore. And he seemed to be over it. Like, it just seems, I don't know, retreading old ground.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't hate it. I don't mind Steve flip-flopping, and I don't mind... as long as it's... I think they've still got 2 episodes left.
Can't resist the pretty.
They've still got 2 episodes left, and they have... They're extremely long episodes, so they've got time to address all this stuff. And this isn't the last season either. We're getting another season.
Yeah.
So,
I don't...
all that. I think one of my favourite things about this new season is again the villain. I think you mentioned Mind Flayer earlier. I do think Mind Flayer was a bit shit, and I think slowly but surely, since the Demogorgon was the best kind of monster, and then since then we've kind of had diminishing returns. Vecna seems like we're going back to a really interesting upside down villain. So I think that's also a real kind of benefit.
Yeah.
For us.
And then the demo dogs, which is just funny because that's always happens with like any kind of property where there's a monster. Just do a dog version of them.
Yeah,
like
Predator. Predator dogs and alien dogs and I think this kind of came to nothing.
But Vecna's great, and the guy that plays Hims also does a great job.
That's what really sold me on the season. I had until they started to show more about that guy in Eleven's flashback that she's living through.
Yes. Yeah. The orderly type character.
Yeah. Oh, I felt so bad for fucking 11. I made that stupid joke about because 7, 8, 9, but that's why she's so upset. But I don't know whether it was that in this group or another chat. But
it was in the chat.
I felt so bad for 11 because just like I was bullied in school too. But like to see someone who like she's so ill-equipped to be in that situation, I kind of felt like why the fuck? Like she just lost her dad. Why would you move her away from all of her friends? But I guess Joyce just wanted to get out of Hawkins.
Although I did really want her to murder the bullies.
That scene with the roller skate.
Yeah, I was like, fucking hell.
That was good.
That one hurts.
The gear.
I was kind of like more just hit a shoulder slap, but then that was a bit more like fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because then I felt bad because like she was obviously making it worse for herself. Oh yeah, they were horrible. They were so horrible.
They were horrible.
Well, people that are teenagers are fucking horrible.
But as soon as that, it was episode 4 that the orderly came in. Jamie Bowden is his name.
Yeah.
As soon as he came in, he came on screen, and I says to you, I went, he's Vecna.
But I didn't got that because he seemed so old. Like Vecna, like I was expecting Vecna to be like, and I'd seen a headline of some actor going, "Oh, this is me under all the Vecna makeup," but I didn't cop. And I only copped, like, so I guess episode 6 or 7 when they started playing out that story properly. And I kind of copped that he was a bit like dodged, that he was like, he seemed nice, but then the Papa doesn't seem nice, and then like, I don't know, that shit's all messy.
He's not nice, and you're like, what's going on?
So maybe not as soon as we see him, but I did say at a certain point, he's number 1. He's going to be subject 1.
I said he was number 1.
No, you called it he was Vecna, and then 2 episodes later I went, and does that mean he's number 1? And then you said also Vecna's the first test subject.
Yeah.
And then that's what happened. But the thing
when
you
I
didn't
said
call
he was Vecna, what?
Was the Creel connection, the Victor Creel connection. That he's Victor Creel's son. No, but when it happened, you went, oh, I didn't call that one.
Oh, that he's his son? Oh, right, no, sorry, I was talking about something else.
Oh, so you copped that he was Vecna, but you didn't cop he was, well...
You said he was Vecna, and then I said, is he the first test subject? And you said, so Vecna's the first test subject.
And then I said that it's going to be they two fighting that opened up the first gate and created the Upside Down. Because it's
hold
two
on, because they say that the Upside Down is stuck in 1983 when Will went missing.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of just thought, because then I've seen other people talking about it online. They're like, oh, maybe in this universe the monsters won over, but it's not a different universe. Well, it is technically, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not an alternate. Well, it is an alternate reality, but it's not like Multiverse of Madness. This is a universe where this thing happened. Yeah. So I guess we're going to find this out. But the Upside Down was only created then; it's stuck in that time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, but when did all the monsters come from? But I guess that's something we're going to figure out.
Yeah. So it was created because those two were fighting, and it's two of the strongest beings in the world, and that created the Upside Down because he had to go somewhere and refused to die. So then when the Upside Down was created and the Demogorgon escaped and started kidnapping people like Will, then that's why it's stuck there.
But that they kind of said in... One thing I kind of found stupid is that when it was sometimes it was smart and sometimes it worked, but how they just figured shit out by talking about it. It was like they're applying basically Dungeons and Dragons logic to...
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, this means... Because they, obviously that's the way the story's going. So it's a little bit like wishy-washy, kind of fate healer kind of shit, where they're just saying shit and then it makes sense. But they said that the Demogorgon is... I don't know the Dungeons and Dragons logic. The Demogorgon is like his pawn. The Mind Flayer's pawn. But then Vecna is like his general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So technically this is still the Mind Slayers, but then every creature in the Upside Down is a hive mind.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're all the Mind Flayer to some extent.
But why is telepathy fighting create a different reality? I do know another thing that annoyed me is the overuse of Eleven's nose bleeding. Happens every time she fucking does anything. And we've grown up with the X-Men and it doesn't happen all the time then. It happens. I think strangely in Marvel it seems to happen to more is the Invisible Woman. It happens sometimes with Jean, but I've noticed it more with her. But it's really only when she's super pushing herself. But that, to my knowledge, is more of an Invisible Woman trope than a Jean Grey trope or a general telepath trope. But surely all that fucking head bleeding can't be good for you. But maybe she just has one of those loose nose things. But then all the telepaths have it. Sorry. I used to have a friend when I was younger. If we used to do wrestling matches, and his nose would bleed so easily. Sorry.
The one thing that I don't love about this season, this is just me personally, I hate Kate Bush. So see the fact that so much of it is based around.
Oh, it goes that, yeah.
I hate that.
But it's kind of... I heard about this and I'd seen snippets of the scene, so I kind of knew what was happening. And people are going, oh, it's the best scene ever. It's like, they don't fucking use that song that well. It's in the distance. You can hardly hear it. When they put... I was expecting when they put the headphones on her, it'd just be blaring through the Upside Down. But it's at a distance, and they don't even play the full fucking song, and... It's not even used that well, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I was talking about it with my housemate yesterday. It's like seeing people going now that, oh, people didn't know about this song before it was used in Stranger Things. It's Kate Bush. People knew about it. But me and my mate were then driving around in his car yesterday when we were going out for a spin, blaring Kate Bush. So, if anyone heard us, they're like, oh, you just fucking watch Stranger Things. So, but yeah. What's the other? She's another song that's very similar.
Wuthering Heights?
No, Cloud something. Cloud Tripper or something. I think it's from the same album as Running Up That Hill. But it's using similar kind of musical instruments. It is a very similar vibe. You can tell it's from the same album, but it sounds really like an alternate version of the same song. There's a dun, 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 and violins or something. Yeah, I don't even think it was used that well, and I fucking love that song. And you do hear it more often, but then, the Peter Gabriel Heroes, which they used again at the end of season 3, that broke my heart when I watched. Because I think it was the fucking year my brother died. Sorry to get too emotional, or because my brother would have loved Stranger Things. I can remember my sister telling my brother about Stranger Things, and I think the first season came out in 2016, around October. My brother died in December, but I remember watching that scene where they found out Will died, and they're using Peter Gabriel's Heroes, and it like really struck a chord with me every time I heard it for a while, because it was just so fucking sad. Like, and my brother was an 80s kid, he would love the show. I just think that scene in particular, because the music blares over everything and it shows all the characters. But with this, they didn't even, like, you can barely hear it. It's in the distance. And yes, it saves her, but I just didn't think, because we're all aware of scenes where they use music really well. I just didn't think it was. I'm surprised it kicked off so much, because I don't think they gave the song its full.
Should I Stay or Should I Go was used better in the first season, and it's a better song.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I don't know. I won't say anything against Kate Bush.
But yeah.
I think they're all great songs from the 80s. I just don't think that it was used that well in this show.
I like the idea of a song being able to pull you out of Victor's kind of charm. I think that's quite a cool idea.
I just think the sound mix could have been better, to be honest with you. Very funny. I put it on my Instagram story. There's a clip of Will Harbour and Winona Ryder talking, and she's kind of mentioned something about, it's only a snippet of an interview. She's like, I just don't think I had that look, in the 80s. And like Will Harbour's like, what the fuck are you on about? Because apparently he's admitted to having a crush on her when he was younger from the 80s. And it's really sweet. But he's literally just like, I roll her and go, what the fuck? Like, it's all in his face. Like, what the fuck are you on about? Yeah, I think Joyce's stuff is a little bit more like that to be. She's just a fucking, she's a mother. Like she's in these really. I think some of that stuff, and I'm saying that with Will too, and the older characters. I'm kind of just. I said this earlier. I just think some of their stuff is a little bit harder to believe. But look, it's fucking fantastical and everything. Sorry, the first season's just going on here. I'm like, oh, poor 11. Yeah, so Vecna, just the idea of having a character that's a little bit Freddy Krueger-y. And that's what really, I was like, how does he relate to the other stuff? But now I guess we know by the end of Volume.
It's also slightly Pennywise, like when he's on the other side of the
the
bathroom stall. Yeah. That was very Pennywise, when he's doing the mother's voice and stuff. And
yeah, and I just didn't cop it. I didn't. No part of my mind at any point was thinking what he's doing is like telekinesis, because on his side of it, he's got this weird arm thing.
Yeah.
So he's just like sucking. But if the Upside Down was created when they fought, why is it stuck in 1983 when Will was brought there?
Because that was the day that they fought. They fought on the same day.
Oh, right, I guess I just forget how young 11 or Millie Bobby Brown was when the first...
Yeah.
Yeah, because we first pick up with 11 after she's just escaped and she goes to the diner, which we
They've just fought and she's ran away. And then gets out. And
that's what I'm saying. I think you need to watch season 1 again to sort of know where 11 is mentally at that stage, because if that's what she's just experienced, does season 1 still make sense? That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
In terms of our character motivations and stuff, I think it'd be quite interesting to watch it now.
Okay.
Knowing
apparently there was a dark horse, going back to the comic tropes guy, he just mentioned that there was a dark horse kind of prequel comic that in the first, I think I don't know what he's saying, 11 minutes. Is it 11 minutes that opening scene? Because 11, I don't know. But the Dark Horse comics are completely uncanonized by the flashback. And I didn't cop the flashback. I was like, oh my god, 11's a murderer for the whole thing. And then I was like, it was this guy. Yeah.
I'd be a murderer, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's just what she should have done in the Billies, to be honest, was popped the lights. But anyway, that was the one part of the CGI though that I didn't think looked great, but I think there's a reason for it. See the scenes where the kids they float up in there and then all the bones snap and then the jaw and then the eyes pop. Some of that CGI looked a bit cartoony, but I think that's
still for kids.
Yes, I think that's because if it made it realistic, it would be a bit too much.
Yeah.
I think they're trying.
I didn't
make
think
it
that's fucking
slightly
unrealistic to me.
cartoony so that it can still feel unrealistic. Because it's really disturbing. You know, it's one of them. Some of the most disturbing deaths we've seen in Stranger Things, and you do feel like it does add to the idea that Vecna is the most brutal threat that they've faced so far. But I think they probably thought to themselves, if we make this super realistic, it will be like,
it will give kids nightmares.
yeah, it'll be properly hard, you know.
But like, it's not really something we've
violence.
A visual reference, like a telekinetic murder, you know. So
But
like,
I think some of
The bones breaking and the
I think
eyes
some of the
popping.
CGI in those scenes was a wee bit
Yeah.
false looking, but I think they probably leaned into that a wee bit so it wasn't too intense.
yeah,
Perhaps.
I don't know. For me, I just thought like, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that they'd purposely do bad CGI in that point, because at the end of the day,
I don't
there's
necessarily
not something else happening there other than an arm breaking. Like, there's nothing. Doesn't have like a big cartoonish sound effect when it happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was done bad on purpose, but I think it was done. There was maybe like a kind of pre-visualization done, and then they were like, "Do you want us to finish this?" And they were like, "No, that would too much. Maybe just leave it as it is." Like maybe more along those lines.
Maybe like
speculate.
The arms aren't coming off or anything, like, or the blood splatters and
like with the jaw breaking in their faces, especially when the eyes pop. It looks kind of more Coraline rather than like realistic, and I think it's kind of like, if your younger audience can handle Coraline, they'll be fine with this.
I do think for kids this season is probably the darkest so far, possibly.
Yeah.
You were saying about your nieces.
Yeah, because my nieces watch it and they are 13 and 11, and it was the 11-year-old who's only she's only just started to get into it, because even the initial seasons were a bit too scary for her up until now.
Yeah.
She's a little bit braver now, so she's kind of like, oh, I want to watch this. I feel cool. I feel adult. I'll watch this.
Oh, Jesus, that's perfect.
I was texting my sister and I was like, do not let Amelia watch this 4th season yet. She will not sleep.
Don't watch it without...
But Vecna's probably a little bit like on par with, but maybe not. He's probably a little bit less scary, but he's a little bit on par with Freddy Krueger, who...
But
Robert
what I wonder, comparing villains to see what's scarier, like Vecna is very methodical in a lot of things he does, whereas when we see, especially in this season, when we see the Demogorgon again at the prison, the Demogorgon is an animal and it's just on pure instinct to act. And I think it's quite interesting what's scarier, that it's just in the Demogorgon's nature and it doesn't think twice about ripping you apart, or Vecna doing it methodically on purpose.
Yeah, that Demogorgon...
more messed up, because that scene was great. I love seeing the Demogorgon just ripping through those guys. I thought it was awesome.
That was pretty brutal, right? Yeah,
it was cool.
You know,
I've missed him.
And I think
that guy up and like his jaw hit off like the bottom of the staircase and his head just opened like a walnut. I was
he took a couple of bites out of his head, so like it was just, that was actually that was a lot of blood. I don't really remember the Demogorgon's kills in the first. Maybe I should try and watch some of them. But he kind of didn't kill. He didn't have go on a rampage at any point.
No, he maybe didn't have the same. But I also think because obviously the one that we see in season 4 has been cooped up in a prison. I think that's why he's so. Yeah. When he's let out, he's like, rah! Do you know what I mean? Whereas in the first season, because he was just kind of roaming about and a bit more free, I guess he was less aggressive.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of saying that's.
As far as I remember in the first season, the Demogorgon kills were more off-screen. I don't know if we've seen as much on-screen kills for the Demogorgon as with that last scene in season 4.
Who actually killed Barb in season 1?
Vecna did, apparently.
Yeah, well, we've seen Barb in season 4, right?
Yeah, we see Barb her body. At the end of...
But she's just wrapped up in all the shit in the
I guess it's just technically the mind flare, like the upside down killed her.
I think that's what Vecna wanted. He got the Demogorgon to kidnap a certain amount of people, like Will or Barb or whatever, and it's just so happened that Will was the only one that lived.
But again, it is also like, you can tell they're writing it as they go, because the whole thing about
they're throwing this in at the end
in this specific way, snapping their limbs and popping the eyes. We've never seen that before season 4, because Vecna's only came into season 4, even though he's around the whole time. Surely we should have seen more bodies like that pop up, but
because in my mind, like, I literally can't even remember how. I know she was getting pulled down into the water,
the swimming pool,
but that was just by the tentacles that were there. So
just upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. I guess a couple of things I knew about before going into the season. So I Googled or I YouTubed. Well, I kept seeing Vecna. I was like, fuck, I just want to know what the crack is with this guy. So I just want to see how he kills people. And then I seen the cheerleader death like way before even seeing it. But it was so funny then, the nerdy guy who gets killed, Nancy's buddy from the fucking
the newspaper
thing.
guy.
I seen the cheerleader kill, and then on the thumbnails underneath, I looked away and I was sure I seen Will.
Right.
So I was the whole season I was expecting Will to die, but all I seen was the thumbnail, and it was the nerdy guy's body. But I was sure I even seen like one of Will's stripy t-shirts. But I seen the thumbnail and I just seen the guy's body. But I seen it was on the road. So when I got to like episode 7, I was like, I think that was just your man's death. But then when I went back and did the same search again, it just says Vecna kill. So I just, when you're looking at something quickly, trying to look away, I thought the kill said Will.
Right.
So the whole season I was expecting Will to be killed. And, they seem to be alluding to his homosexuality.
Feelings for Mike.
Which I think some people were saying he's had the least to do in all 4 seasons.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I remember even like when he got out in the first season, and like he fucking slug came out of his mouth. Yeah, I was like, oh god, poor kid. Because I think it's a little bit now where you're like, they're fucking old enough. Let them off.
Yeah,
fend for themselves. Yeah. But it felt very like it's really scary to see a child or a younger person go through that.
But I do agree. I feel like as a kind of audience, we became a bit less protective of Will at this point. It's just like
and he's been pushed aside.
He's grown up a bit now. Just let him fend for himself. But yeah, you kind of you lose some of the kind of focus on certain characters as it goes on.
It's spread out because you're just adding so many characters. It's a lot. Like just a little thing. Finn Wolfhard. I love how his character's kind of grown. That he started off. They're all just these little fucking teardrop head kids in the first, they looked up the cast of fucking Snoopy or something or whatever that show is actually called. But they're all these little kids, But now he's kind of grown up, and he's a nerd, but he's weird, but he's still cool and he's confident. I just love how he's grown. His character feels very realistic. Even, he's a nerd, but he's sure of himself. I like that.
Yeah. What I love as well is the relationship between Dustin and Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very
That's still good in this season.
Oh, he goes, your teeth are going to fall out. It's like, dude, too far. It's just and they just go, nobody messing. He's like, no, that was too far. He's like, oh, sorry. And it's a nice little awkward interplay with them.
Yeah.
Steve's fucking great.
Always a damn babysitter.
Oh, what's her name? Maxine. Max. She always corrects people. When they go, Steve has a shirt off, she's give me that. And they just don't mention it. I thought it was hilarious. If you watch Succession, she is awful similar to Siobhan from Succession. They need to play a younger and older version of each other in something.
Right. She's good. That girl's good.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Sadie something.
Yeah, Sadie something. And I feel like her and Sophia Lillard are very similar, so it would be quite cool to see them in something together.
Sophia Lillard? Who's that?
Lillis.
Yeah.
Who's that?
She's from It. And Sharp Objects, and
is she the young girl in it?
Yeah,
the younger
Jessica, yeah.
Who really should have been played by Amy Adams as she was older. She looks a lot more like Amy Adams. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't really look like Jessica Chastain, but I think she requested Jessica Chastain.
No, she plays a young Amy Adams in Sharp Objects.
Yes, she plays young Amy Adams in Sharp Objects.
There you go.
Thank you. She does do that.
Because they look awful alike in my eyes.
She's young Beverly, and what's the character in Sharp Objects called? Can't remember.
I've read the book and watched the show.
Sharp Objects?
Fantastic.
It's a show, is it?
Yeah. It's really good. The book's
I wasn't
amazing
mad on it, but you liked it.
I really liked it.
Okay, I might give that a look. Oh! Is it the thing that Glenn Close is also in and they're like hillbillies?
No, that was a movie, I think.
That's something else altogether.
It was a HBO show. It's a HBO show.
God bless it. Oh, and it's got your one. That's Sydney Sweeney. She's from.
Is Sydney Sweeney in that?
Thingy's in it. What's his name? That guy that's in things.
The drug show with
He was in.
what's the girl? Zendaya?
Yeah, Euphoria.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen that yet.
I don't think Sydney Sweeney was in it.
Yeah, she's coming up here in the cast anyway. Like sometimes Alice. I don't know. Sometimes when you look up shows like that, it'll just show someone and they're not actually in it.
So
That's
she
maybe
is.
more on IMDb.
So she is. I do know who she is in that now. I remember.
Elizabeth Perkins. She's like an old school actress, isn't she? She's like big in the
Yeah.
80s. Oh, yeah. What the fuck? Elizabeth Perkins.
Yes, from
What's her big hit
Braveheart,
from the 80s?
right?
Big. She's not in Braveheart, is she? She's big. She's the woman who's has a very awkward relationship with a 15-year-old and a 30-year-old's body.
Not Roz from Frasier.
Oh, no. She looks like her, though. I don't think.
She's the mum from Cats and Dogs.
Sure.
I don't know what that is. No, Roz is a different person. I thought you said Braveheart. I don't know how I said Frasier, but it's Scottish. That's the Stranger of the Things.
That's the Stranger of the Things.
That is a Stranger.
Do we have any last thoughts on Stranger Things? I can't wait for the last 2 episodes. What we were saying earlier about Netflix's release schedule, as much as I kind of get it, because I don't want to just have all this hype for a week and then nothing. It's just, it sucks to have to wait. Like between like Ozark was the same and Stranger Things, and
listen, it's only like 4 weeks or something.
I know. But I just feel like when
You're
I'm watching
too
something,
busy to watch TV. So.
Well, I was going to say I think it is a personal thing, because see when I'm kind of on a roll and I've got a momentum going with a show, like this happened to me with Ozark in the last season. I had a pure momentum going with that last season, and I was looking forward to it. Next episode, yes. Oh, here's a big gap for like 3 months, and then see when it came back on, I kind of had to find that momentum again.
Yeah.
And either just do what Amazon do or Disney Plus and just do it week to week to week, or do the old Netflix and just put it all up in one go. I think that's like half the season, then wait, and then another half season.
Sure, look, it's only fucking 2 episodes.
And it is only...
Sorry, I don't be like...
and it's not that long away.
Look, all the seasons are great, but like I just finished Severance, and I waited till it all came out, and then I watched it, and then I was so... I guess I might just skim over a couple other things that I've watched. Severance, fucking great. Produced and somewhat directed by Ben Stiller. Very good. I won't say much about it. All I'll basically say is people work for a company. If you don't know it, people work for a company where they go through a procedure to have their work mind separated from their personal life. So in work, they don't remember anything about their personal life. In their personal life, they remember all their own life, but they don't remember anything that they do in this place. They just know that they go there to work. And it's great.
And it's Adam.
Who's the Falcone from Batman? Isn't it?
John Turturro.
John Turturro's in it.
What's his name? Adam Bigelow.
Adam Scott. Adam
Scott.
Yeah, from Parks and Rec.
He's in.
Yeah. What was the other thing he did that was really good?
Step Brothers.
Servers or something. They play actors in LA, but they're just working in a catering company. Can't remember what it's called. Really good show.
He is excellent in Big Little Lies. He's phenomenal in that.
Oh, really? Isn't that? I've never seen that.
He is...
Patricia Arquette's in it too. Oh, and Patricia Arquette is in another... So, how I kind of was aware of this was... I think it was actually before the pandemic. Ben Stiller did a TV show with Patricia Arquette, Benicio del Toro, and Riddler. So going back to the Batman again for Paul Dano. Yeah. So, and Patricia Arquette, they were in a show based on a true story about some woman who was sleeping with 2 prisoners. I don't know. And it seems a bit mad. I haven't seen that, but it looks really good. But that was also produced by Ben Stiller. Then Severance. So I finished Severance and I was like, oh, and Christopher Walken's in it. But I finished Severance and I was just so fucking pissed off that I had to wait to watch more. And like that's no like the season finished and that's it. It's just I was fucking infuriated that I had to wait a year to watch the rest of it.
Is it getting season 2? Yeah, is it getting another season?
I fucking hope so. But that's the thing. It's not on Netflix, so I think it's probably safe for the most. It's on Apple TV.
Right?
Yeah. More to the purview of the show. I've watched the first episode of Miss Marvel, as I was saying to you guys.
Yeah, we've not
started recording. It's very. I seen someone said it's like Lizzie McGuire. It's very funny. Lead actress is so fucking charming. It's just
We'll watch that tonight.
Yeah, very very entertaining. Won't get into it too much. Apparently, it has some little remixes, but it plays heavily on the comic book Miss Marvel. Yeah, I don't think I've really watched anything else. Barry, which I have to catch up on, fantastic. Bill Hader, fucking love it.
I love Bill Hader, but I've not seen Barry.
So good. You'd fly through it.
It's on my list too. I'm looking forward to Barry.
Really,
we also
really
saw Top Gun Maverick. I don't know if you quickly want to touch on that. It's a few weeks old at this point, but
Love that.
Top Gun Maverick was great. Have you seen the new Top Gun yet, Jerd?
No, I'm not even sure. I don't have a working memory of the first one, even if I ever even seen it.
It's far better than the first one.
Yeah.
The first one, it's very of its time.
I like the first one because I love cheesy films, but the second one is definitely
a step up, yeah.
Much better. And
I heard it's kind of like a remake at the same time.
And,
it's like the latest Scream. It is somewhat of
or Star Wars. It's kind of just like
does a good, but it does a better job than Star Wars, in my opinion, of paying homage to the original, but also passing the torch.
It's still got the charm of the original while also kind of surpassing it, and then
it doesn't feel dated.
You've got Miles Taylor looking like Miles Taylor. So what more do you need?
Like see the way that
He's good casting for playing the younger version of the son of that guy because he looks quite like him.
He is gorgeous in this film.
See the way that Independence Day just leaned into the nostalgia and the tropes of the original Independence Day, like the latest one. Top Gun does the opposite. Top Gun takes the stuff established in the first movie and builds on it and expands on it and uses nostalgia in a clever way, kind of like No Way Home did.
Well, that's good. I'm like the Val Kilmer was in it because I didn't realize.
Val Kilmer makes a reappearance as well.
I just seen a picture of him and I was. Don't just fucking put him in it.
It is somewhat of a hard scene when he's in it, because they do incorporate his real life health issues into the character's movie, into the character's sort of issues. So it does touch quite close to home. And there's a moment where him and Tom Cruise hug. And apparently it wasn't in the script, like it was just day to embracing, and it's really
so emotional,
tear-jerking.
It's so emotional.
Yeah, it's really.
I must watch that Val Kilmer documentary.
Really well. You could tell that he enjoyed being there.
I'm dying to see Val. We've not watched it yet because again, there's a part of me can't bring myself to watch it because I know it'll be really sad. But I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know what film it's from, but I just saw the clip there come up on one of my fucking feeds of. It's from a film, but I don't think it's a Tarantino film. But it's Tarantino talking about how Top Gun is actually a homosexual film.
Is Four Rooms? Maybe from that.
Possibly. I don't think he's...
Four Rooms is the one where Tim Ross...
It sounds like a Tarantino fucking rant, anyway. Like
it does, yeah.
Like I'm assuming he probably did delete... Oh, yeah, it's very like that. But I don't know, I'd love to rewatch that because from the way they say it too... Like, maybe it's just they're taking their time with it because, look, Tom Cruise's character hasn't turned out to be gay in the new one, I'm assuming, but it was interesting because like there's something about in the first film, it's very homoerotic, which I think is too.
100%.
But then there's a scene where the woman fucking shows up in like dressed all butch in the first one.
There's
like a hat and stuff.
There's a super cut on YouTube of the homoerotic moments. So there's obviously the volleyball scene, the famous shirtless volleyball scene, and there's a lot of the kind of you can be my wingman any day, you know that. But there's a scene
there's nothing wrong with men being open with each other.
But there's a scene where there's a general shouting. He's going off his nut, one of the generals, and he's in the next room, so you can just see like the office door shut, and he just shouts, "I want some butts!" and it just cuts to something. It's out of context, and he's obviously like, "I want your ass, I want some butts," but just out of context, it sounds so homoerotic. It's great. But go and look up that stuff if you
look up Tarantino Top Gun. It's just because it's what it is probably missing from the film that it's Tarantino saying it in. It does edit in the clips of what he's talking about, so it just kind of makes it that little bit more. You can ride my ass anytime or something like that.
So, on that note of veiled homoeroticism, I think we're going to wrap up this episode of Pop Shot Podcast. I would say the number that we're on, but I'm not sure what it is. I think it's episode 9.
Don't even know.
So, thank you for joining us for episode 9, maybe. Pretty sure it's 9. We will be back next week with another actual topic, hopefully, because we won't just be doing a catch-up.
I might be seeing Jurassic Park next Saturday.
Oh, lucky you.
Really fun cinema here in Dublin called the Lighthouse Cinema. So Ulysses, which is James Joyce's book, we have a celebration in Ireland. I think it's celebrated around the world. It's called Bloomsday for the main character Leopold Bloom, which is on the 16th of June, which is when the day Ulysses is set. But this Lighthouse Cinema does Jeff Goldblum Day. So they just show old, which I guess it's not Jurassic Park, but I think it's only coinciding this year because they have it every year. But they actually are showing Independence Day and The Fly for it. No, sorry, this doesn't do it at all. I might be seeing Jurassic World, so I have to try and watch the 2 most recent ones. Apparently, this new one is rated worse than all 5 other Jurassic Park films.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I was just before this podcast listening to Jeff Goldblum for his second appearance on the Conan O'Brien podcast. It's fucking hilarious. The two of them just talking, and he really gets on with Conan's Suicide hosts. It's just fucking hilarious, and it's just an hour and somewhat of Jeff Goldblum going, and one of the guy, Matt Gurley is a massive Jeff Goldblum fan. He's like the producer, but he's also like appears on the podcast. And Conan O'Brien is just Conan O'Brien. He's fantastic, but it's just the 3 of them kind of as the side host. Then so Obsession is just talking about them. Just listen to he splooge about old film stars throughout the whole podcast. Sorry, tangent, but yeah, it's good. Jeff Goldblum on Conan O'Brien podcast. You'll have a good time.
So yeah, we've already said, but like, subscribe, share, check out the channel for other shows, other episodes. We've got the For Your Consideration podcast, which we talk about Scream and a bunch of other franchises. And stay tuned for more episodes on pop culture subjects.
Reviews on Spotify.
Yeah.
Or any podcast you can review us on.
Yep, give us a review. And yeah, keep following us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff.
All them good places.
Yeah, cheers for joining us, Jerd. It was good to catch up with you. No spoke to you in a few weeks. It was just shoot the shit. And the heroic, glorious, angelic,
fantastic, beautiful.
Thank you for being here.
Glorious.
Why does it feel more genuine when it comes from Jerd?
I don't know.
Good for yourself, Dad. She bought you a PS5.
So yeah.
Jerd, how long did it take him after getting the PlayStation 5 to bounce it off my floor and smash one of my candles?
I heard this like the day of.
Yeah.
An
like
hour.
40 minutes.
He had it for an hour.
And it still works, so that's
Sturdy machine.
Comfortable with my one now. I was telling the guys before we started recording this, my new Captain America, my new Hulk, my new Siren, Banshee's daughter from the X-Men, and my new Rogue. And I believe Thor there somewhere. So.
It's not an episode of Pop Shop without a Jerd figure update.
Yeah, because literally I'm blowing so much money on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. All the best, and we'll catch you next week.